It's 8:30. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being a part of this regular August meeting of your Board of Directors. We'll call the meeting to order. And first order of business is Donald. Do you want to introduce Victoria?
Certainly, I'll be happy to introduce Victoria. So as all of you know, at our last board meeting, I had indicated that we had offered the position to Victoria, and she has accepted. Victoria was without a doubt our number one choice to be our new controller at Foxfire. And she started at Foxfire the second week of July. And at this point in time has been, training with the staff and getting to know the staff, and also doing a little bit of work with Geraldine, our interim controller. But Victoria's got a really great background. I'll just say that when we did start our search, I did email Victoria and asked her if she would be interested in applying for the job. And I could tell just by the tone of her email back to me that it was going to be a really great step if she would come on board. So ultimately, our search committee interviewed Victoria. We're 100% unanimously behind her coming on board. And as I said, she's here now. So what I like to do is have Victoria tell you a little bit about herself and her family and just give them a little overview.
Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm happy to join Foxfire. So far, it's been a very positive experience. Everybody is very welcoming. I learn a lot. I train a lot with everybody. There's so much more to learn, but I'm so happy to do it. My family, I'm married. I have a son. My husband is a teacher at Lorenzo Walker. He's a chemistry teacher. My son is attending Seagate Elementary in second grade. He loves to golf and to swim. My personal hobbies, I love to read and spend time outside with my family. I'm happy to be here, so I'm whatever I can do to improve the Foxfire's operations. That's what I'm about.
We're certainly delighted to have you here, and want to give you, all the support you need
Thank
to
you.
get things going. It's a lot to undertake. But we're very confident that you're the person
you.
to do it.
I told Victoria when I saw her for the first time a couple of days ago that when the interviewing committee, the three of us were in the process of interviewing, we got to the end of Victoria's interview, and I told, after she had signed off, I told the rest of the members of the committee, you can stop interviewing now. This is the right one. Let's make her an offer before she gets away. And they agreed. It was unanimous. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. We have no guest speakers.
There is a raised hand, Tom Bennett, for the right to speak, but I don't think we have guest speakers. Is that correct?
Yeah. Okay, well,
He can speak though on an agenda item if you'd like to speak.
yeah.
Right.
So now we have the members' right to speak. You said Tom Bennett has indicated he wants to speak.
But he has lowered his hand at this point. Let me just confirm that. So at this point, there is no member that has raised their hand and asked to speak.
Okay, thank you. Well, why don't we move on to the minutes of the June 18th board meeting? In the board book, starting on page 1. Any additions or corrections? Page 1. 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. And page 7. If not, is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
I move to accept the minutes as submitted.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Linda. Wonderful job as usual. We now have the minutes of the Thursday, June 24th special board meeting on the budget. This is on page 8 of the board book. Any changes or additions to page 8? Or page 9? Not a motion to accept the minutes of the June 24th meeting.
I move we accept and adopt the minutes of the June 24th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, done. And again, thank you, Linda. All right, well, let's move on then to the budget. In mid-July, the members received the budget that the board had approved sending to them, along with a letter from Roger. Roger, did you want to make any comments at this point?
Yes, and just to refresh all of our memories on it, and this is in the board book. This reflects a 3.4% increase in annual assessments per member. And this is well below our 10-year average of 3.8%. The increase, the impact on individual members, their annual change will go from $5,998 to $6,200, which is $202 on an annualized basis. There were several. This particular budget was put together through an immense amount of work by the entire finance committee, meeting with all department heads. And Lynn Anderson is with us this morning to address any questions that any board members have thought of since we first looked at this in June, as well as any members that may be looking into it. But I want to say that the finance committee and operations did a great job of looking at different social and economic issues that were embedded in building this. They had to look at very tight labor markets. They had to look at a big drive of ours of employee retention in that, because we need a core group of people that we value, and we want to make certain that we're staying with us. They were dealing with back in March and in April and in May, the thought that there is mounting inflationary issues, that conditions that are hitting the overall marketplace, and it was likely to stay with us, whether it was going to be transitory or whether it was going to be a longer term type of thing. We certainly, during the fiscal year 21, 22, it was going to be more than transitory. We were going to be facing some inflationary issues, and operations continues to tell us that has taken place. Each of the department heads were asked to be very disciplined in their cost and expense controls, which they have done through this particular fiscal year, which should give each of us great confidence that they're going to exercise that discipline in the future for the new fiscal year. We were thinking strongly about, let's make certain we have a great balance sheet to take to Iberia Bank as we go through phase 2 of the master plan. And that balance sheet, which we can all take a look at through the first 3 quarters, is absolutely outstanding. Our net worth in this community went up nearly $2.8 million, and it's gotten stronger and stronger. The Finance Committee helped us in fortifying our cash contingencies. And they came through, I know Donald's going to talk about it a little bit later on, and finalizing our PPP loan, which has moved to a very positive way. So all of these factors went into the thinking and the planning of the Finance Committee and operations in getting us to this particular stage. And hopefully we have addressed those types of things, but we want to make certain that we discuss any of them that are on any of our minds today.
Thank you, Roger. Any board members have any questions at this point about the budget?
My only question is, did we get questions or comments from members?
I did not personally receive any questions.
I did not receive any inquiries and at all the entire time. The only inquiry I received was for the detail, which I had provided the day after the last board, the special board meeting in June. The only feedback that I've seen has been some very positive emails about the budget and the budget preparation.
Very good. I just want to make sure we address anything that may be out there that we're not aware of.
I heard from about half a dozen members. 3 of them asked about the percentage change. We had some brief discussions about inflation that we were facing and the retention issues. I did when I had those conversations with 3 people who had somewhat of a concern about going up to 3.4%. The other 3 were all very complimentary and impressed that the Finance Committee and operations could work with what they considered to be a very modest change.
Thank you.
Are there any members who are on the Zoom call here that wish to make any comments?
If there are any members that would like to make a comment, please press the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. At this time, there are no members that have indicated that they would like to ask a question.
Okay. Is there no question? Go ahead, Tappy.
Oh, I was just going to say, should we go ahead and make a motion and then we can have the discussion?
Yes. Is there a motion to adopt the budget as presented to the members in July?
So move.
Is there a second? Okay. Is there any discussion? I guess all I want to do is reiterate what I said at the last meeting, which was that this was the 18th iteration of this budget, which reflects the amount of scrutiny to which every line item was put. And I think we owe a debt of gratitude to Roger as treasurer, to Lynn Anderson as chair of the Finance Committee, the rest of our committee, and the department heads, and of course, Donald, for all the effort that was put into to developing this budget. At the end of a really unusual year, to say the least, we came out of this in good shape, and it's a tribute to all those who are involved that we are where we are. Any further discussion?
Let me just say, I was fortunate to receive an email, as I'm sure all the other board members were, from Lynn Anderson to ask if I had any questions about the budget. And I wrote back to her, and I'm going to say what I told her and what I want to say to all the members who are listening in, that between Roger and Donald and Lynn and the members of the committee, we are very fortunate to have people as diligent and as thorough and as intelligent as this working on our budget. It is an almost thankless task of just enormous detail. And they are great stewards of our investment here at Foxfire. And I want to thank each of them, but not only the three I mentioned, but everybody on the finance committee and all the staff here at Foxfire who have contributed to keep costs under control. I think it's as Dr. Cornetta says, a tribute to all of you. Thank you.
I echo your comments, Jim. I think that this was a real team effort on all levels, from all the department heads, all the administration, the staff, the finance committee, and an extraordinary group of talented individuals that have really kept us on track. I also responded to Lynn when she reached out to the board members, and it must have been difficult given the uncertainty of what's going on right now in the economy, but I think they were very prudent in their approach. And I think that it will serve us well into the future.
And I would add that while members may not have been privy to all the work that went into this, members will benefit from this budget every day and every time they use the Foxfire facilities.
Happy if I can add, because first time I saw the backup to all of this this budget, and I did talk to Lynn. I emailed Lynn a few times and talked to her yesterday. I can just say that what we see, which is pages on pages of analysis that comes down to basically 3 pages, is even more impressive. And I truly appreciate all of that work, because we think a couple of pages is the work. It isn't. It's stacks of paper. So kudos for a good job.
Okay, any further discussion? Well, we have a motion to adopt the budget as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, well, thank you very much. And thank you to all those who are involved in getting us to this point. And we move on to the general manager's report.
Okay, good morning, everybody. First, I'll start with a couple of the bullets that are actually on the agenda, and then talk about a couple of other items as well that have come up over the last few weeks. But first and foremost, as most of you know, a couple of years ago, we started a program for continuing education for our food and beverage operation, where we made agreements with our vendors, suppliers, to attend test kitchens with our staff. And due to COVID over the last 18 months, last year, all of the test kitchens and those types of workshops were canceled. And fortunately, Cheney Brothers, who is one of our primary vendors, actually did a test kitchen for our food and beverage staff yesterday. So everybody on the staff attended, got some great ideas for new recipes, different plating options, whether it's appetizers, dinners, desserts, what have you. And there was a lot of excitement from Leo, from Ray, from Galena and Hillary, as they were sending me pictures of all the different foods that they were tasting and testing and learning about the different preparations. So I just want to congratulate them on those efforts, and to Leo for continuing to pursue opportunities to make our food and beverage operation better in all ways. He has been working with Cisco as well. However, Cisco wants to do something sort of like a food truck, but they would like to have 3 or 4 clubs do this at the same exact time. So we're pursuing that. And in addition to that, there are a variety of webinars and other types of training that are available to the staff that Galena and Leo are pursuing as well. So I just want to say that overall, yesterday's experience for them, based on the feedback that I got, was outstanding. They got a lot of great ideas, some different techniques, and pretty much everything that was presented to them, they felt that they could utilize in some way, shape, or form throughout the year at Foxfire. In addition to that, I want to mention that because of the supply lines and some of the challenges that are out there, as all of you know. It's hard to find chicken wings anywhere you go. Actually, Alice Sweetwater's doesn't even have chicken wings on the menu right now, but because the cost is extraordinary. So in any case, what Leo and Ray have been doing is they have actually been prepping and all of their trivia menus and all the availability at this point in time for the entire fall. So they have all of their menus for trivia written through the end of December. And Leo is lining up all the different dessert options so that they know that when it comes time, that those desserts will be available to them. So they're doing all that forward prep and being very proactive so that when we advertise what's going to be on the trivia menu, whether it's for an entree or for any other type of a dinner, that we have it here. There are going to be times where some of the menus for events will be open-ended just because of the supplies that are available. But the staff has been engaged even while we've been closed with the golf course. They've been doing a lot of side work and prepping for the season, and now starting to prepare to hire seasonal staff, which you don't have to go very far to realize that every single industry in this country is suffering when it comes to finding staff. And actually, the jobs report the other day, once again, hospitality was the area that added the most jobs. I think it was over 350,000 jobs were added in hospitality. So there's a lot of competition out there for talent. The next thing that it's not on the agenda, but I just wanted to mention, we've had over the years along Davis Boulevard and Radio Road, in some of our heavily wooded areas, we've had at times homeless people living there, and we've always went and had them clear out, and it's always been a very agreeable way of agreeable with the homeless, and there's never been any type of violence or any type of issues. This year we've actually had several homeless camps set up along Davis Boulevard, and it appears that it's not uncommon, not only in Naples but in a lot of areas, that there's just more and more homeless. So in June, we actually had to work with the Sheriff's Department and Collier County Code Enforcement to go in and clear all of the homeless camps. And there was probably 5 or 6 at that time, and you would never know that they were there. But we have been working with the county since then to make sure we keep it clear. As I said in the past, it's been 1 or 2 homeless at times. But this year, we actually had to bring the county and the Sheriff's Department in and clear the camps. So at this point in time, it's behind us, but I want to say that it's not the end of it by any means. Pretty much every street corner that you pull up to at any red light in Naples right now, there are homeless people who have their signs out. So it's sad, but ultimately, this is what the county and the Sheriff's Office is dealing with all over Collier County. But our efforts have been to keep the homeless camps away from Foxfire.
Donald,
Yes.
where do they take them to a shelter? They just kick them out? What do they do with them?
Based on what the code enforcement gentleman explained to me is they have the homeless. Most of these homeless people have a place to go, whether it's St. Matthew's House, but the reason that they're not there is because they're not following the rules of St. Matthew's House. So my understanding is that if they're very strict about what their rules are, and if they're not following, they won't let them stay. And that's pretty much what the gentleman from code enforcement told me. So as I said, it's one of those things where I think there's certainly an effort to help, but in a lot of cases, it's not playing by the rules, and that's why they end up camping in the palmettos, in around some of these communities.
Yeah, I just don't want to make it somebody else's problem.
No, absolutely not. No, and like I said, any interaction that we've ever had over the years. I mean, in years past, we would actually go out and just talk to them, say, hey, you can't be here. It's, okay, no problem. If you saw the amount of trash that we removed from the Davis Boulevard, the fences along the new 9, it was incredible. So much so that Waste Management sent me a letter because our dumpsters were overfilled. So that's how much trash, it was insane. It had to be probably between 50 and 100 bags of trash that were in those woods. So in any case, but that's where we are. And one of the things that another discussion was the fact that our pedestrian gates at Foxfire are open during the day. The reason our pedestrian gates are open during the day is because when Foxfire became a gated community, that was one of the conditions of that agreement, that we could close the roadway and become a private roadway. However, one of the conditions that we had to allow pedestrians to pass through. At this point in time, our pedestrian gates they have automatic lockdowns through that we installed a couple of years ago. We upgraded our systems with Envera, and those lock down from 9 p.m. until 6 a.m. And for several members who, if they're out that time of night and they can't get through, that triggers them to come to the office, because when we did our rollout for our new Envera equipment, we provided fobs for our members so that if they were out, late at night or early in the morning on bicycle or by foot, they could use their fob. So we do have fobs in the clubhouse to give to the members for those who do, are on foot or bicycling after 9 p.m. or before 6 a.m. But one of the issues with those pedestrian gates is the way they close. So on Monday, I actually have a meeting with one of the estimators from Carter Fence to see if we can get some sort of an upgraded closer so that the gates sometimes they get stuck wide open, whether they get hung up on a plant or whatever it might be. But the gates, the pedestrian gates being open during the day are part of an agreement that was made with Collier County when Foxfire became gated. The gates do automatically lock down at 9 p.m. and unlock it at 6 a.m. And we're looking for a way to improve the closers so that when someone does walk out of the gate during the middle of the day, it doesn't just swing open and catch a bush and stay open. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention because that's been a topic of discussion. With regard to our projects, I'm going to walk through each part of the golf course and where we stand right now, starting with the new 9. Our plan, and that is in motion right now, is that on Monday, August 23rd, we are going to open the new 9. The golf course for people who want to play, for members who want to play 18 holes, they will play 9 holes twice. Obviously, 9 holes will be straight tee times. We are having a little opening event, kind of a kickoff event, just to celebrate this opening, where there'll be a golf tournament, and then afterwards we'll have sort of complimentary hot dogs and soda and chips for the members. As of Wednesday afternoon, we had almost 60 members already signed up, which is fantastic. So that's great. The golf course itself is from a condition standpoint. No, when we open the golf course, number one, we wouldn't open the golf course unless we felt like the golf course could handle play and traffic. At this point in time, the fairways are in excellent condition. The greens, we did not rebuild the greens, but we had to do a lot of work on the greens because we didn't have irrigation water out there for several weeks as we were doing the upgrades. We rebuilt bunkers, and then we laser level tees. Well, some of the weaker areas on the golf course are the slopes, some of the slopes going to the tee boxes and various areas. And while those areas may be thin, they're not to a detriment to where we can't open and let members play the golf course. What we will do is we're going to have various cart restrictions on different days. There'll be some days where it's cart path only. for everybody. There'll be other days where we'll allow carts on just the odd holes, carts on just the even holes. And just like everything else, we'll monitor it to see how everything plays and see what type of wear and tear we get. The positive thing, and this is something that I've shared with a number of members who have voiced concerns about opening the golf course at this point in time, is that the golf course can recover this time of year. This is a growing season. We have adequate rain, we have a new irrigation system, we have heat, and we have plenty of sunshine, especially in the morning. So the fact that the golf course can recover makes a huge difference. If this were an opening that was scheduled for January or for, even November, then more than likely we would probably hold off another 2 or 3 weeks. But at this point in time, where the golf course is, as long as we manage the traffic the way we know how to manage the traffic, it'll be a great place for enjoyment for our members. And as I said, we'll monitor it on a regular basis. And as members do log on to the website, we are updating those photos as we speak. We put some new photos of the new 9 on there yesterday. And we're adding a number of photos as well for the other areas. But if you could see the actual changes over the months from the time we first started to today, it's incredible. We've top dressed the fairways. We've been mowing the fairways for approximately 6 weeks at this point in time. And John and I, and Stephen and Jeremy are in regular contact on how we're going to manage this. And I think that it's going to be a very positive thing for our members. And if we have to make adjustments to our scheduling, we'll certainly do that. But allowing members to go out and play the golf course at this point in time is not going to be a detriment to the golf course. The areas that are weak are areas that, whether it's now or later, will have to be sodded anyways. That's what happens when you have the summer rains that we have. But I think overall, the expectation I'd like to set for members is to realize that it is brand new grass. There are going to be weak areas out there. And because we have been doing the vast majority of all the construction for this project, with whether it's building the short game area or doing the drainage with Universal Underground, the detail on the golf course will get better and better as we go, because now that we're opening the golf course, we'll actually have staff out there every single day maintaining it. So there are areas that we haven't been able to get to, primarily because even in regular years, every summer we actually have anywhere from 4 to 8 day laborers that we bring in to work on the vines, and we do that religiously every single summer. Well, even day laborers, you can't get day laborers. So now that burden's been put on our staff as well. So it'll get better as time progresses, but the golf course is certainly ready for member traffic. If we allow carts on the fairways on certain days, it's because we feel confident that we can. If we pull them off, it's because we want to give the fairways a break. With regard to
access to the new 9,
I'm sorry?
access to how people are going to get to the new 9.
Yeah, so what's going to happen is members will have to use the roadway, because there's so much work being done at the intersection of 2 silver, 6 red, and 9 silver. So they'll actually have to use the roadway, Kingsway and Foxfire Lane, to get to the new 9 for access. And we're putting together an information sheet to cover all of that, so that all of our members know, okay, this is how you're going to get to the hole. This is the way you're going to play. These are going to be the restrictions on these particular days. And the guys in the pro shop are putting that together with John's input, Jeremy's input, my input, so that it's very clear. But the access will be limited at this point in time to using the roadways. And what that will require is members will have to check in sooner, but it takes a longer to get there, and so on and so forth. This time of the year, if we play 70, anywhere from 50 to 80 golfers a day, that's pretty much what our max will be generally this time of the year anyway. So that's really not a lot of traffic to start with. But again, it's one of those things where, we have to be nimble, we have to be flexible, and I believe the members will cooperate with us on that. The other thing that what I think is very good is that the reciprocal relationships that we've created and the accommodations that those reciprocal clubs are making for our members, and with reduced rates, several of our members are very happy that they're able to play these reciprocals, play them at a reduced rate, and feel good about it. So it's been a very positive experience all around, and those will continue to be available. Today, we have a Play with the Pro at Gray Oaks. We have 30 members who went with Stephen and Dylan to play at Gray Oaks. We did a trip to Stream Song with members back in July. So there's been a lot to keep our members engaged, which is fantastic.
One more quick question. I know that it's too early to have the golf course rated. So when people play the new 9, should they just post as we used to for handicap purposes?
Yeah, we actually have an existing new 9 rating in the system. So whether they play it once or twice, so we actually have a rating in there that we've had historically. But we are, Stephen has already signed up with the FSGA so that once all the golf courses are ready for rating, they'll be out here to do so. But there will be able to post legitimate scores on the new 9, whether they play it once or twice. The blue golf course, where we are with the blue golf course, is the irrigation is complete. We've grassed the entire course other than hole number 1 and number 9. The sod for number 1 and 9 has been installed. We are finishing the sprigging on hole number 1 and number 9 on Monday. And then that golf course will be totally sprigged. Once a golf course is totally sprigged, we'll wait at least 5 weeks before we determine our projected opening. Our projected opening will definitely be after what we originally anticipated, just due to the pure amount of rain that we've had down here and we've encountered, this summer. As always, we did plan on rain and rain delays and things like that, and built that into our timeline and our projections. However, I know it's in your board book, but if you look at July, historically, July rainfall is 7.3 inches. And this July, we got 19, almost 20 inches on the original 18 and 18 inches on the new 9. And then in June, historical rainfall is 9 inches, and we got 12 and 14 inches, almost 15 inches and 12 inches respectively. So the rainfall amounts have been just insane, not to mention the extended thunder and lightning storms that have started very early in the day. But the golf course has been prepared, expertly prepared, I should say. We're very excited about the sprigging because the sprigging that started last week. Those sprigs are already starting to green up, which is wonderful. And at this point in time, the moisture in the soil and the fact that we rototilled the golf course wall to wall is helping the sprig seat, and they'll be that much more viable as they grow. But we will wait approximately 5 weeks before we project that actual opening of the blue golf course, and that will be behind schedule. And I would say at a minimum at this point in time, I would say probably 3 weeks. So our original projection was the first week of October. I would say it's more likely to be toward the last week of October, but only time will tell. And that, of course, will have an effect on the original front 9. The practice greens on the new short game area have been built to USGA standards and specifications. Those greens have to be fumigated. Once we fumigate the greens, which will be at the end of this month, we have to wait 9 days and then we can sprig those greens. So those green, that short game area will lag behind slightly when it comes to growing on that practice area. But the practice area did come out really, really nice, very, very, very nice. And I think our members will be very excited to see the short game practice area once it's grown in.
Donald,
Yes,
can I just interject real quick? I was on for the vote for the, this going back to the budget. And I just wanted it on record that I voted yes, but I was in with the group and I had to come in again with, and I have to leave the meeting. So
okay.
just want to get my vote recorded for the budget.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Mr. Schwab. Thank you.
Alright. I'm sorry I have to leave. I've got a lot of fish to fry today.
There you go.
Well, we'll be over later to help you eat it.
Hey,
Have a
hey,
good day. Sorry
Thank
about
you. Have a good
All right.
weekend.
you too.
Donald, if I could just interject quickly, and
Sure,
by the way, I appreciate the update. I'm in New Jersey, so I can't see that good grass growing on 3 Silver. And it did grow very, very well. It's amazing how much it came in. But I would just suggest that because we know that we're a little behind on Blue 9, we might want to check the website because I think it's still showing the old dates. So if we don't want to project, perhaps we may want to just put in under study or something like that, because if the members look at it, they may get confused as to the exact start date.
I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, this week I've been working with Kathy O'Brien on those charts.
Great.
And so yesterday, she's brought them pretty much all up to speed with projections and we have notes that indicate that we're going to wait 5 weeks. So, but that's a great point. And so Zach is actually making those updates this morning. So we're all on the same page.
Thanks.
And he's updating, yeah, and he's actually updating some of the photos as well. So, so that will be a positive thing. But that's an excellent point. The original front 9, where we are with the original front 9 is we are in the process of installing all of the main line. And then, so the main line has been installed on hole number 6 red, 9 silver, 1 silver, and 2 silver. And the lateral lines have all been installed on 1 silver. But what we're going to do now is we're going to continue on just with the main lines and getting all the main line installed first. So we're going to do 7 red, 8 red, 9 red, the driving range, then 1 red. The reason we're going in that order is while the irrigation crew is out running all the main lines, we're actually recontouring and cleaning up all the fairways on the original front 9. We did the exact same thing on the Blue 9. So I mentioned in an email to the board a couple of weeks ago that the product that's going to be delivered on these courses is a lot more than what we originally expected, because the way we've been able to coordinate with the irrigation company has allowed us to bring the equipment that we've rented in our Shaper James. It's given him the opportunity to go in and recreate the mounding and the sloping that really will improve drainage, improve playability, and really define the holes the way they were originally intended. So I think that the overall product in the end, after this project is all over, I think our members are going to be thrilled with. We also have completely redesigned the driving range. We built practice greens out on the driving range. And then that we're going to attempt to sprig the driving range first so that we can get that opened a little bit earlier than the original front 9. But the main line with GT irrigation is going in for the next probably 2 weeks. That will give us enough time to circle and finish the grading on all the fairways. And then at that point in time, we will jump over and start backfilling and working on hole number 9 red and 9 blue, as the bulkhead permit, as you all know, is in, and we're just waiting for MGR to start that bulkhead. They were supposed to be on site this week. They've had a couple of delays, which we can completely understand because of how everything's worked out. But once they get on site, it'll take them about 2 weeks, 2 working weeks to build the bulkhead. And then behind that, we'll build the greens. It'll take us 2 weeks to reshape the greens. And then probably another week or 10 days to get all the drainage and the greens mix in. So overall, the entire project is going very well. We've had a lot of challenges with the weather. The people that we've been working with, whether it's Universal Underground, GT Irrigation, Hills Forest Smith, have all worked extremely well together, and things are really moving forward. Stepping right into the amenity master plan.
Donald, can I just
Yeah, of course.
Can I just jump in for a second? Because I noticed in the budget, we have projected items for this year, and I think it's 125,000 that we put into the budget that we may vote on for the netting for the driving range. Should the board consider that more immediately, simply because we're redoing the driving range and maybe putting the net up now would make things simpler?
Yes, exactly. And with the netting, one of the things with the netting is that we didn't want to get into the netting until the site plan was approved and the environmental resource permit was approved, because we know that we're going to have the county's going to say that area is a preserve and so on and so forth. And there are some pipe and utility conflicts in there. But I agree with you 100% is that we want to look at that and consider that now, so that if we can move ahead, we can get that done while it's closed. Absolutely.
So if we did that, we'd need like 3 estimates so the board could vote on it. So I'm just suggesting it might be a consideration that maybe get it started.
Right. And actually, as we're looking at it, one of the things that the netting that's there now, we actually did that internally. John, his crew, Stephen, and our crew several years ago. Actually, I bought the poles from the driving range across the street. We cut them in half. I custom ordered all the netting, and we did it ourselves all on a Thursday. So what we're thinking too is we might be able to relocate the poles and just add extensions to them. So we may be able to save a real significant amount of money if we can do it that way. So, but absolutely, for sure. So the netting estimate, we've had a gentleman from Tampa come in, and it was quite a bit. That 125,000 was a lot higher than we anticipated. We didn't expect it to be that high, to be very honest with you. But the environmental resource permit and the site development plan have been approved. That's what's releasing us to be able to do the bulkhead wall and to start the tennis and bocce project. So at this point in time, as I said, MGR is lined up and they're ready to go to start building the bulkhead wall. All the materials are on site and ready to roll. The bocce and tennis court project is already underway. The light bases and poles are all on site, along with a lot of the other equipment that's on site. The first thing, because they're doing the infrastructure first, they'll install all the light bases, all the light poles, and all the lights. Then US Tennis will come back. They'll recompact all of the subsurface. Once they recompact all of the subsurface, they'll come back in, they'll do all the curbing for the tennis courts, install all of the fencing for the tennis courts, and then build the tennis courts first. That's their plan right now, and then transition their crew over to bocce. We did all the demo, as most of you know, early on. We were able to do that. But as soon as US Tennis was able to start with their subs, they were out here right away. So we're fortunate that that's underway. With regard to the rest of the amenities, we're still working through the construction documents with MHK. We'll talk a little bit about that later. And we can, but right now everything is moving forward, and our goal has always been to have obviously the golf course open by late fall, all 27 holes, the new short game area, which is going to be wonderful. The driving range, and then the bocce and tennis by the beginning of the new year. So everything there is really underway and in great shape.
Donald,
we're
if I
looking-
may, just quickly at this point, and I don't mean to interrupt, there is a member question, as long as you're talking about the tennis courts. With the increase in interest in pickleball, will the renovated tennis courts be also painted with pickleball lines in yellow?
They will not. They will not. It's still, they'll still probably have that dilly ball that they've been playing out there. But we're hoping that down the road, we will be able to build pickleball courts out at the corner of Radio Road and Kings Way. We have a location that we have to convert to a recreational area, but there's plenty of room to build 4 pickleball courts, but there are some county hurdles and obviously discussions that have to happen with the members to do that. But the tennis committee has, assembled pickleball events away from Foxfire, groups that go to the East Naples Park. And on Friday afternoons, Greg gives lessons on what they call dilly ball because they don't play it with an actual pickleball.
Mhm.
And also the surface, the hard true surface is not the proper surface for pickleball.
Well, I think it's important for pickleball players to understand the nuance of all of this discussion regarding this. So it's good that the question was asked and there's some clarity on it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Barry
And as
Murphy
far as
has
the
his
amenity-
hand up. I don't know if this is something related to that or he can wait to the end, but I just wanted to make that note.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to clarify something that as far as the construction for the amenities, the grill room, halfway house, we are looking at a projected start date of late spring. Is that still correct?
That's correct. Yeah, by the time we finish construction drawings, go out to bid, select a general contractor, and then get the permitting in. But the idea is that we're projecting sometime late spring to start that portion of the project. It seems like the most reasonable with regard to the fact that we're going to be kind of cleaned up for the season. And then just the supply chain alone, the lead time that whoever the GC is, the lead time that they're going to need with subcontractors and everything else is going to be, one of the considerations. So
Absolutely.
There's a couple of minor things I just wanted to mention before we get into the controller's report, and that is that as of this morning, Gary he'll be elected to his Class A membership of the PGA. He's passed all of his exams as of this morning, so he should be elected to membership as a Class A PGA professional in September. That's the schedule right now. I also wanted to note that some of our staff in other departments in the kitchen, one of our gentlemen in the kitchen, one of our line cooks, Terry Burns, the working out and doing whatever he could to help out in any department while the kitchen's been, limited hours has been incredible. And so we do have some really excellent team members in all the departments. And I said to Gary Shea yesterday that one of the things I'd like he and Zach to do is write an essay on what it's like to work with the golf course crew in the middle of the summer, because they got a taste of just how hard that work is. But Dylan, Zach, they were out there, Harry out there digging trenches, helping with the
Get outta here.
so removing all of our pavers from the tennis courts, doing all kinds of odds and end jobs. So they've all contributed, and I'm very proud of all of them. The other one little note I just wanted to mention too, and that is that you may or may not know this, but Stephen Richardson, his older brother Thomas, I think this would be something that would be nice for you all to know. his older brother Thomas was just named the chief of department for the fire department of New York. He's the highest ranking person in the fire department of New York, which is a uniformed person in the fire department of New York. He's been on the thing on there for 40 years. So the fire commissioner just promoted him to that. So that's something Stephen's, quite proud of. But I thought I'd share that with all of you. With regard to the financial report, I just want to, well, actually, sorry, before I get into the financial report. Last night, I sent an email to the board just to give them an update on the overall golf course project. And what I sent you was something that I get every 2 weeks from GTI, and that's the schedule of values. So if you do have that handy, that's great. If not, I just wanted to touch on this so that everyone would understand where we are. The most significant costs in the overall golf course project contracts are with GTI, the irrigation company, and with MJS Grassing. Thus far, with GTI, we've had 3 total change orders. Those 3 change orders all appear on the front of the schedule of value sheet. And they total to $10,850. For a project of this scope, that's incredible that we've gone this far with this few change orders. Change order number 1 for $7,000 was due to the fact that we had a bore under Foxhound Road that we had done back in 2013, a road bore for irrigation. And when we wrote the bid back in 2019 for irrigation, we didn't have that road bore on the schedule because that bore was fine. Unfortunately, right under the last year, that piping actually failed. That's right directly beneath Foxhound Drive. So we actually had to do a new road bore, and that's why that $7,000 is there. Change order number 2 is that we wanted to add a couple of extra valves, and these are peanuts, but I just want you to know kind of where these things come from. Change order number 2 is that we wanted to add extra valves over by Mr. Garrity's house on 3 Silver and by the green. And the reason we did that was that in the future, we wanted to make sure that if we needed additional irrigation along Davis Boulevard, that we had prepared for that. So that was a change order, and all these change orders were driven by Foxfire. And then the final change order is for a hookup that is half of that is actually the $1,000 of that is the responsibility of Villas One, and that is because they had a system that was tied into our irrigation system, so that if their pumps at the pond that they take water out of got so low, their pumps would shut off and tie into our irrigation. So those are the change orders. But overall, from a budget standpoint, the 80% of this golf course, 75% of this golf course project is going to be irrigation and regrassing, and whatever comes along with that, whether there's rock removal, changes driven by the owner or by the company. But all of those things are discussed, negotiated, and done in the best interest of Foxfire. So every 2 weeks, we have a billing that comes from GT Irrigation. That billing includes the schedule of value chart. It includes the invoice for that period of time for the previous 2 weeks. Any adjustments, with whether it's for labor or for anything that we did on their behalf that they're giving us credit for. One of the other contents is I've asked them to always include a release of lien. That way, we always have a release of lien that says that we paid our bill and that we're not responsible going forward once this project is all said and done. So that's how that portion of it is managed. And what you don't see on this schedule of values, which will come out in the end, is the fact that the timing of our purchase for the piping, the fact that we got on early on, we actually have a $15,000 credit that is an invoice credit for the piping. So that's one of the things that will be a deduct when this is all said and done. In addition to that, there's going to be a deduct at this point in time of $20,585.03 for labor that we contributed to this project. At this point in time, our labor force is working only for Foxfire, other than some unique situations. But one of the things that we're doing is all of our old heads from all three courses and the practice areas, all of our old heads, we are actually selling to a wholesaler. Part of the project included GT irrigation to remove all of our old heads. We've removed them ourselves. GT has given us invoice credits, which again will appear at the end of the job. And then we're taking those heads and that equipment and sending it back to this wholesaler. And so far, we've received for the first two courses approximately $17,000, and we're expecting another $8,000 to $10,000 as well. So there's a lot of information you don't see here, but I want you to be aware of that and where this is going. The other important piece of information that I included there was that throughout the entire project, the net cost to members for the entire project was about $2.77 million for this project, which included the short game area, the driving range improvements, and so on and so forth. All along, we had intended that we were going to get a rebate from Rainbird for purchasing their equipment. And you can see in the email that I sent last night that I started that conversation very early because I wanted to make sure that the rebate was not in the form of what they suggested originally, and that was that they would credit the vendor, GT Irrigation. And I said, no, I don't want it to be a vendor credit. I don't want it to go back to them and then, you know, have them be responsible for our money. It's got to come back to us. So the credit that I sent you last night, that invoice credit, is the first official paperwork that I have that shows that we are due a $242,000 rebate, which we originally negotiated with Joe Collins and Rainbird when we signed on. So that rebate is going to help net our costs down so that our budget stays very, very solid. But I just want you all to be aware of kind of how we're looking at things, what's happening, what's transacting, why are there changes? You know, there are costs that we can't anticipate. We might get into something where there's a pipe or a drain that's not where we think it's going to be. And then we have to make a change in the field. There's pieces of equipment that, you know, you can rent them for 1 or 2 days and it costs $600 for you know, a drill, a specialty type of a drill. And it's not worth owning because you're going to use it once every 20 years. So there's a lot that goes into this and there's a lot of moving parts. But overall, I just want the board to be comfortable with where we are, where we're going, and that ultimately the project and the result of the project, I think our members will be very, very proud of, and I think the board will be very proud of. So I just wanted to give that to all of you as an update. And if you had any questions about these items, you know, I'd be happy to answer them.
Donald, as I read this, I was really encouraged. It just opened things up that anybody can understand very, very quickly. The great work that operations, the Greens Committee and the Construction Committee have done throughout the course of these past 90 days, while the rest of us are out on vacation or doing different things, playing golf and reciprocals. You guys have been working really hard, and to see these numbers come in so smartly, membership should be tremendously pleased. So thanks for keeping us all in the loop on this one.
Thank you. Thanks, Roger. Have any questions? Move on to the controller's report. So I wasn't going to throw Victoria right into the frying pan. I'm going to burden you with my controller's report for the 5th or 6th time this year. which will of course be very high level when it comes to this reporting. But first and foremost, I just wanted to give you a quick update, and that is that Victoria's first experience with closing our monthly financials is actually right now. Geraldine came in last week and worked with Victoria some, but Victoria is actually working on the July financials herself and putting all of those pieces together. And then once those are reviewed and ready to distribute, we'll do that. This report goes back to, as Roger had mentioned, the third, through the third quarter. And so June 30th. I just want to highlight a couple of items here. First and foremost, as you all know, we've had a tremendous sales year with regard to the real estate in Foxfire. So our new owner transfer fees are better than budget by $207,000. Pro Shop, all the departments are doing a wonderful job with their budgets and their expenses. The Pro Shop, their payroll is $55,000 better than budget. The golf course is $20,000 better than budget. And I highlighted these couple of items just under the golf course, just for clarification. Currently, chemical is better than budget $40,000 and fertilizer is better than budget $75,000. As all of you most likely are aware, and if you're not, I'm going to let you know now, that at this point in time, John is spending a lot of money on chemicals and fertilizer because we have to grow the golf course in. So those numbers generally do give a kind of a false sense of security, because ultimately because everything was dead and we were tilling everything, we weren't spending money on fertilizer and chemicals. So it's really been delayed. So over the next few months, July's expenses, August and September, you'll see those surpluses dramatically reduced, if they're a surplus at all, by the end of the year. So I just wanted to be open and honest about that, so we're aware of that. Same thing with fuel. We're not operating near as much machinery for the last 3 months because we're not mowing greens, rolling greens every day. We're not mowing fairways and so on and so forth. So that is why the fuel is better than budget, even though fuel prices are going up. In food and beverage, payroll is better than budget, $84,000, again through June. And the rest of the operations are very solid as well. So through June 30th, we're over $400,000 better than budget, which is quite incredible considering the fact that we're reduced to 50% capacity during the season, had to cancel a lot of our major events. And so I think, again, I just reiterate that I think the department heads have done an incredible job managing their expenses and really only spending the money that has to be spent in a year of the unknown. So if there aren't any questions regarding the operating, I'd like to talk a little bit about the capital requests and get everybody on board with that so you know where we're going. So are there any questions regarding the operating?
Now, let me make a comment. Donald just gave us, for all of the board members and anybody that might be listening in, the income statement information that we all have. We received this from Geraldine for the first 9 months. And so when we're finishing the first 3 quarters, Donald has pointed out to us that operations is operating $427,000 better than budget. That is a tremendous savings for all of us and great diligence. From the income statement, each of us on the board should take a look. We all received the note from Geraldine on July 30th about the balance sheet. And the balance sheet, we all want to think about that's our portfolio, if you will. Think of our own homes. We have a portfolio. We have cash and checking accounts in our homes. We have homes. We have furniture that's in our homes. There's inventories. There's cars that we have. Perhaps we have investment programs as we're raising families, etc. That's our balance sheet. That happens in a business as well. that we're all have a fiduciary responsibility on. And our balance sheet has, after 3 quarters, as of June 30th, has shown a tremendous improvement in strength. Not going to bury you with all the numbers because I know you have had an opportunity to look at this, but our current assets, cash on hand, things that we can operate on immediately, is up $2.6 million on a year-over-year basis. Now, a large portion of that comes from the special assessments that members, and this is their balance sheet as well. The balance sheet isn't the board's, it belongs to every member in our community. Our members have paid $2,470 or committed to pay that much over a 10-year period of time. That's a tremendous leverage point that we'll be able to use as we negotiate for phase 2 of a loan that's going to have to come up. Our liabilities have actually gone down on a year-over-year basis. They're $64,000 better than they were before. So when you take a look at your current assets and your current liabilities, our ratio a year ago was 3.78. This year it's 5.33. Financial consultants would tell us you guys are doing the right things with your portfolio. And whatever it is that you're doing, keep on doing it. We have wiped out a year ago in June. We had a $660,000 loan that we owed. That's not showing up now because we've gotten a program in the PPP and it's forgiven. So right steps have been taken through the guidance of operation, and we have a very, very strong balance sheet. I would encourage all of the board members to make certain they take a look at it. The net worth of Foxfire, which is owned by 931 different members. Last year it was $20,875,000. This year it's $24,550,000. So our net worth as members has gone up over $3.6 million. And it's a combination of the income statement being managed very diligently by operations. And it's a combination of members saying, I want to have a better and stronger community. 52% of our membership paid the full $24.70 prior to June. And the other members, 48% of our membership are going to pay that balance over a 10-year period because that's the way they want to handle their particular funds, personal funds, and that's important to have that type of offering.
Thank you, Roger. Thanks for, absolutely. Thank you, thank you. So with regards, so you'll find in your book that we have some capital requests, and all of these items are intentional. I'll just kind of touch on them. So first and foremost, our Thorgard lighting system has been due to be replaced. With all of the current system that we have is close to 20 years old, and the technology is not supported anymore. This is an FM system. We've been very fortunate with our system through the years, and we had planned on replacing it. The key was we wanted to wait until the golf course renovations were complete so that we could do so. So we're asking for approval so that we can sign our agreement with Thorgard to replace that system. That is a repair and replacement item that's been budgeted. The second item there is for our T line, because we're changing the landscape and the drive patterns behind the clubhouse. Our T line had to be removed, which we're planning on replacing individual panels anyways, but we had to remove the entire T line because everything is shifting. So it's going to be a lot more prudent while we're under construction to go ahead and rebuild that T line. There is going to be an additional cost above and beyond what we have here, because we're waiting on some concrete prices, because concrete prices are absolutely out of control. But that expense is to put a new T line in. The old T line was put in back in 2012, 2013. And as you all know, we're replacing, we buy individual mats so we can replace them. But the fact that we have to remove the entire T line, it only makes sense that we reinstall. The next item.
Donald, before you
Yep.
leave this, can you tell me what the T-line system is? I don't.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's on the driving range. It's
Okay.
our artificial turf on the driving range.
Oh, it's just,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
a turf.
Yeah, it's a turf, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sorry.
For
But
some
It
reason-
wasn't just you, Bill, or Jim. I was like, what's the T line? Now I get it.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. I was using internal lingo, sorry. about
Yes.
that. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's the Turf Hound invoice, right?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Gotcha, okay.
And that would be a repair and replacement as well. The next item is, I want to talk a little bit about this, and we have this as part of this coming year's budget, but one of the things that we had to do was we had to update these quotes, because now that we know that we're going to be able to build the halfway house, and the fact that all of that site plan permit ERP has been approved, I wanted to bring DeHart back in here because I wanted to make sure that whatever system that we put in, it would be able to integrate not with the clubhouse, with the halfway house, and with the new fitness center. So the way that these proposals are written, one of them is for the pool area, so we can put the new system over at the pool to watch the pool area, the parking lot over there, and the new pedestrian gate. So we'd want to do that. And then the one in the clubhouse. The key is that if we do these, and the plan would be to do them after October 1st, I would just like to get approval now so that I can say, yes, order the equipment, and we'll plan on the install after October 1st. The key here is that what we do in the clubhouse to update the surveillance and security system in the clubhouse is going to tie in to the future halfway house and to the future cart barn and fitness center. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that it's comprehensive. It's not a piecemeal type of a situation here. So the idea is that I just want to have the approvals to move forward so that we can, once the equipment's ready, we can go ahead and do that.
One
The
quick
next item-
question.
Of course.
I'd like to know what the voice of Thor is, and is it as interesting as it sounds?
The voice of Thor, I don't know the voice of Thor, sorry. I'll have to ask about that one.
Where is that? Kathy?
That's on the Thor. It's the third line item on the Thor guard.
Voice of, yes.
Get off the golf
That's
course.
good. Yeah, right. Well, it's interesting, that with the systems that they're installing in the fitness centers and all, like Countrysides, and I'm sure this will come up when we get into our fitness center, but on Countrysides, they actually have a smart system where it'll say to the members, the fitness center is closing at 10 p.m. You have 10 minutes, and then it actually automatically locks down.
Right.
So it's pretty wild. The next item is it's not a capital item. It's just something we'd like to get approved. In our dining room, we have an agreement with Interiors Plantscapes for some of our plants that are out at the entrances, and they maintain them. But they have a new program for centerpieces, and the centerpieces are, $7. We would order 20 of them, but it'd be basically $140 a month. And it would be an operating expense. But I think Galene and I have talked about this. I think that would be a good way to kind of give the dining room a little bit of more life, on a regular day. And then the plants and the pots are kind of interchangeable, so you can change it up and make it look different. But they're very, they're nice looking. They would definitely give the dining room kind of a little bit more life on a regular day when things aren't, dressed up to for whatever special event there is. But it's just one of those things where I didn't want to just go ahead and have her do it without the board's, approval that we could. It would be an operating expense now and going forward. So
these are house plants, living plants?
yeah, living plants, and then they maintain them.
Okay.
Very attractive, but it was a nice thing. And so
The House Committee, I'm liaison on the House Committee. They're very, very interested in seeing these types of things enhance the experience that our members have as they're coming into the dining room. You may recall that 3 years ago, we put live plants in front of that facility and inside the front entryway. Before that, we had plastic plants. We live in Florida. It doesn't make sense to have plastic plants. We should have live plants. To put something attractive on tables and around tables is going to enhance the experiences that our membership is going to have as they're in the dining room.
absolutely, it looked really nice. There's one other item, and this isn't in the book, and I apologize, and this is my doing. There's one other item that, again, the expense will be more than likely after the next board meeting, but again, something that I'd like to move on now that we have our site plan approved. Because we weren't 100% sure how things would lay out with regard to the county and what changes they would force us to make with the site development plan, we didn't want to do any upgrades to the existing, parking lot lighting and whatever needs we have across the street. Our parking lot lighting for the employee parking lot and for the pool parking lot is prehistoric and dated. And we actually, if you have the current capital budget for this year, that is one of the items that we do have on there, and that is for lighting for the parking lots. And now that we know that what we have existing, we can paint and change the ballast so that we can do LED light fixtures, which in turn there'll be a savings on energy costs, but also when the mechanical plans are developed for the cart barn, because the load for the parking lot lights will be reduced, it may give us an opportunity to downsize one of the electrical panels in there as well, which would be a cost savings in the long run. So what I'm asking for is to kind of advance that we can go ahead and get the lighting in the current parking lot upgraded, do the parking lot lights across the street where we'd actually remove all of the current fixtures, because as I said, they're old and dated and they don't light it at all. It's actually kind of a dangerous situation. But so last year I actually had gotten a bid from Bentley Electric for that work. And then I also got a bid this year from Bay Electric. I called on Condi, who does some work for us as well on a number of cases this spring, but they never came out to do an estimate. When I had estimated it last year, I thought that we would be around $12,500 for that lighting upgrade and painting. And with Bentley, the lighting alone is about 12.5. With Bay, the lighting alone is 15,000. So obviously we award this project to Bentley Electric. But the caveat is I want to make sure that we paint all of the fixtures too, which I know is going to cost anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000. So what I'm asking is that, you know, although it's $12,500 that we anticipated, is to give us a budget of $20,000 so we can do it and do it right and get this put to bed as part of the, you know, this year's budget.
Is this lighting, you probably said this, but I didn't understand. Is it just for the pool parking lot across the street, or is it for that one plus the one by the clubhouse?
So the pool, the lights over the pool and the employee parking lot, that would be new lights over there,
Right,
15-foot tall lights.
right.
There's brand new lighting for out there, a brand new install. Over here, it's upgrading all of the lights to LEDs, so everything in the clubhouse. So it's
Okay,
all the
so
campus
the
lighting.
numbers you gave us are for both parks.
Exactly right, exactly right. And so the idea would be that we would award the lighting to Bentley. They're honoring a price from last year, which is fantastic. They might change their mind, but their quote includes both areas. And I think that, again, because we weren't sure on how the layout of the campus would be affected by the county, now that we know, it really only makes sense to go ahead, and obviously it was previously budgeted, it's part of this thing, but it's going to be more than what we originally anticipated, which is not, as you all know, uncommon for what's happening in the market today. So those items, the Thorgard, the Turfound, the DHART alarm system, which again, that would be after October 1st. Approval to move forward with interior landscapes starting after October 1st. And then the parking lot lighting, that we can get that rolling is what we're looking to have approved so we can keep moving things forward.
Well, I move that we approve those capital expenditures, specifically for the turf pound, the DHART alarm system, the interior landscaping, and the lighting project with Bentley as described.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Bill, the only question, just so I'm sure, we're not adding these into one approval because at 25,000, we run into a, you know, that process. We'll approve each of these individually, so none of them are less than $25,000 as they stand alone, correct?
It was.
Yeah, I think we can take one vote
It was
on
separate projects,
5 individual.
but putting it
Yeah.
all in one.
Just identifying that they're individual projects that we're approving with just one vote for simplicity. I got it.
Yeah, I don't think the plant guys are going to do the lighting.
Okay. Is there any
No, it's
further
not that. It's
discussion?
25,000 that makes the difference. You've got it.
I understand.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you.
If I can say one thing, on the minute, on the agenda, it says foreclosures. We've passed it. We have nothing to say there, just so we clear it up?
No, so where we are right now is we have, at this point in time, one of the homes that we thought we were going to have to move to foreclosure to start the foreclosure proceedings. That unit has been settled and it's been turned over to a new owner. So that has all been cleared up. So, and that's basically as of July. So that will be cleared up for the July financials. The other one that is significant, there are two others, and one's more significant than the other. The real significant one, we are working with our attorney and have the understanding that there's a plan in place for the member to bring his account up to speed and pay that down through some sort of service with his bank.
That's the one old, the single family home?
Yes,
That's, as I understand it, he's applying for a home equity loan, and we have got a copy of the application, so we know it's legitimate. We're just waiting for its approval, at which time we anticipate he's going to pay off the balance too. The earlier project is in one of the condominium buildings, and that was the one that we were most concerned about because we weren't sure how much equity we had, and apparently that's been paid in full. So we're moving along successfully on both of these past two accounts. That's just good.
And now there's a third one that we're sending to the attorney, and ironically, one of the statutory changes as of July 1st is affecting notification, the way that we can move forward with this. But we have all the information that we need to move forward from our standpoint, but there's a couple of notifications that we have to do in advance of the attorney taking action. So that's underway. But that home had been basically abandoned, and that balance is starting to get up there. But it looks like the first two, the most significant one is, as Mr. Moore said, it looks like that should clear. The second one that was a real concern has been cleared. And then this third one, we're working with the attorney on making sure that we can start the appropriate process and start moving forward. Other than that, I took a glance of the current delinquencies the other day, and a lot of that looked pretty cleared up. I didn't see anything really out of whack, which is great. We had a couple that were medium balances, $3,000 and so, and those have cleared up as well. So it's still the majority are really now in two of those three accounts.
I want the board members to know that as much as we like to support our local attorneys, because they have full payments coming up, when we collect these amounts from members, delinquent amounts, it includes our attorney's fees. So we are not, while we have to advance the money to an attorney, by the time we turn around to collect, it includes collection of that attorney's fees, which we've advanced. So there's really no significant net costs to Foxfire when we refer these to attorneys.
Talk about PPP.
Sure. So with our PPP, as you all notice in your board book, we do have full forgiveness of the $660,000 grant. So as Roger mentioned, that's no longer a liability for us, which is fantastic. And I agree with what Dr. Cornetter and Mr. Moore said earlier, and that is that Lynn Anderson and Helen Westling have been just incredible sources of support and hard work and just dedication to Foxfire to really help us see this through. And we're really appreciative of all their efforts that helped us, cross the finish line here.
And really a special thank you to Pam Cannon, who did all the legwork gathering this information and organizing it so that when we did submit the request for forgiveness, everything was in good order and well documented. Absolutely.
I have kind of a basic question. I know that the amount that we borrowed and was forgiven, there were strict limits on how we could spend it, but clearly that helped our bottom line in other areas. So that was just money that was not spent out of other areas.
So the PPP money was spent. So that's so that money was used for the purposes it was intended.
Right, exactly. But
Right.
I'm saying that this meant that there was money that was not spent on salaries and utilities from other funds.
I guess I would probably, I would say it was that there was I'm trying to think of the best way to say this, because ultimately, the PPP funds were what supported the payroll expenses. That's what was their intent. You know, we didn't have to go into contingency funds and other items like that to pay payroll and so on and so forth. But I think the best statement is in the most authentic and true statement is that PPP funds were used for payroll expenses.
And
I
I,
understand.
I think also that that's how we met much of the criteria to have the loan itself forgiven, because we followed the letter of the law and requirements as to how the monies were spent.
That's correct.
Right.
Okay. In the new business, we've got a couple of items. Did you want to address them? I guess the first one is the adoption of the changes to the bylaws mandated by legislation passed in the last year by the Florida legislature. You had in your board books the various changes as they would impact our bylaws. Did anyone have any questions about any of these changes?
They affect also some of the covenants. And these are changes that have been enacted by the legislature over the past year or two, and we are required to follow them. And we, in order to be in compliance, I think it's the best practice is to include them in our governing documents, which we as a board can do without member approval because they're required by statute now. And so this is to update our governing documents. And as I understand it, once it's updated, we're going to produce a comprehensive set of governing documents, which have been kind of put together piecemeal over the years, bringing all of the copies that we make available to the members will be up to date both on our declaration of covenants and our bylaws. And so this is just a housekeeping matter, and it makes sense, and it's something we have to follow anyway, so we might as well get it done and allow us to produce a comprehensive set of those documents.
Is there a motion to adopt these changes?
I shall move.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay. Get that signed and to Steve.
So have them sign that right afterwards, okay?
The next is Donald, did you want to talk
Sure.
about this business credit card resolution?
Certainly. So we do have a couple of business credit cards, and primarily the the department heads use them for not so much specific vendors, Publix, Home Depot, because and so like John and others have those. But our primary business credit card is through Iberia Bank. It's a Visa. And the only authorized users up to this point have been Pam and myself, and now Victoria will be. But one of the challenges is that for us to make changes to the Iberia account, we first have to be identified as people who have control of that account. So if we wanted to add somebody, if we wanted to increase the balance, that has to be reflected in the board minutes that we produce for Iberia. There are a number of items that come up in the course of a year where our credit card balances are just simply too low. And I'll give you a great example, which happened this morning. We have 30 members or 29 members going to play Gray Oaks this morning. And yesterday in the afternoon, someone from Gray Oaks called Gary, and the guys, they weren't here, they were off yesterday, and said, can can you put all the members' charges on the Foxfire credit card? Well, the issue is, it would be fine. The issue is that my credit card balance is so low that it would fail. So all the time, we're putting any larger purchases on my personal credit cards, and then I'm being reimbursed by the club. And last month, when we did the trip to Stream Song, I had to charge $6,000 on my credit card and leave it there. So fortunately, I do have very good payment habits, and I do pay my credit cards in full. But the whole process doesn't work well for our organization. There's just too many times where we have to be able to, act quickly, whether it's a permit, with the county. And so our goal here is to establish that Victoria and I will have the authority to basically control the account. Everything has backup and receipts, and the amount of transactions every year are not significant, but ultimately it's going to be a much cleaner process all around. There are some services where we automatically get charged, just like most of you, I'm sure, for different household items at Foxfire, whether it's our phone system for the tea time system or some of our HR work that we do. There are different programs that we have an automatic credit card debit. So this will give us the ability and some flexibility so that if we know that something's going to change, we can be prepared for that. The other thing that we want to do is we want to add Galena as a credit card holder as well, because Galena runs all over town buying different things for the club, whether it's decorations or cakes or this or that. And she as well is using primarily her own personal credit, using her personal credit card and then being reimbursed. So updated, changing the balances to the appropriate levels and adding Galena as a user. Those are the items we want to do. The key is we have to have a motion that's reflected in the minutes that say that the users will be Donald Shea, Victoria Gabriel, and Galena Sparacino. My balance, I would say, should be $10,000, and Victoria and I agree that Victoria and Galena's balance should be $2,500 each. But that way we're covered, and if we have to use it, we can. I mean, most of our payments for anything are through a statement or an invoice, but we do have to have something reasonable to work with.
What you're talking about is not the balances, but the credit limits.
The credit limit,
That's
yeah,
what you
sorry,
want to increase.
sorry.
And is 10,000 enough?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Because 6,000 alone to Gray Oaks is.
yeah. Well, the Gray Oaks is $2,000 this morning, so I gotta wait. I'm gonna give them. Victoria just got her credit card issues. I'm gonna give them theirs because my club credit card won't.
What are the credit limits we have now?
A total of $5,000 is $2,500 each.
Okay.
Roger, did you?
I just wonder if 2,500 is enough for Victoria. 10,000, I think, probably is very appropriate for Donald. But I've literally seen Galena in Costco pushing a giant cart out of food that she had to get. And Jim, you signed checks. All of us signed checks. Galena shops at Publix for us to get food for F&B. Do you need $5,000 now, or can we move this up with Iberia at your discretion?
I believe we can. I believe we can.
I mean, if you only want 2,500, that's fine. Let's not vote on this another time. There will be inflation of some kind. I'm very comfortable taking this to $5,000 for each of your card usage.
I am too.
I think that makes sense if we can do. I mean, the thing is you made a great point, and that is realistically the person who's using the credit card on a weekly basis is Galena. That's really, and so she's. I mean, mine are generally for like if we have to buy TVs or something like that for the club, you know, where on Amazon, like our Amazon account, but there's nothing more embarrassing than have, as we all know, you stand there and something gets rejected, you know? And so it's just one of those things where we just have to have a better show. So, but I do agree. I think that if we went that route, like I said, we keep all the receipts, we have all the backup for every transaction. There's no question about that. And we try to limit the use, obviously. But this summer was especially challenging just because we wanted to do more things that would, you know, bring the members off campus. And a lot of these clubs, they don't want to charge back. They want to do credit card only and so on and so forth. But I think that would be great if we could just do it that way. And that way it's clean. There's no issue. And
All the credit card statements, monthly statements would go through Victoria's office. Right?
Absolutely.
And allocated to the various accounts.
Absolutely.
That's fine.
So we're looking at 10,000 for you, 5,000 for Victoria,
5,000.
5,000 for Clayton. Okay,
I move we approve the changes to the business credit card resolution by allowing credit borrowing limits on Donald's account of 10,000 and Victoria's and Delina's accounts of 5,000 each.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
One question, Iberia will allow us to do that, right? To set these limits ourselves?
That's been their conversations with Victoria and I. Because we try to get this all sorted out before we got here, but that's the key was that we needed a board resolution, board minutes to support any changes, which is great.
Yeah, no, my question is, we just increased the credit limit, so I just want to make sure Iberia is on board with this.
As long as it's approved by the board, Iberia will honor our request.
I heard that, Tabby, as long as it's
I did
approved
not.
by the board. As long as it's approved by the board, Iberia will honor our request for this credit limit.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a motion seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, ended in good health.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's gone to old business, the wastewater pump station.
Yeah, I just wanted to include that. That's something the board approved for the county over a year ago, and they're actually starting that construction. That's over on Flamingo Drive. They won't have any real impact on Foxfire at all. It's just so if members see construction going on over there, that is something that our board did have to approve for them to work in that area, but it won't have any impact on Foxfire at all.
Okay, next is the Small Business Administration Forgiveness Letter. This is just for documentation. Any questions about it? We've previously discussed it. Again, congratulations to all concerned for success of that program and for the fact that it enabled us to keep valuable employees on board through the pandemic. Kind of transfer process.
I'm here.
Right.
Okay, I changed positions with Jim. We talked when he was in Wisconsin and Massachusetts. I'm in New Jersey. Someday, Jim, we'll sit and look at these forms together, but we've done a lot of conversations, you know. So where we're at is very simply, and as we saw in our budget, October 1st is when the new year starts, and that's when the transfer rates will change. So obviously, we need to get the program in place. So this is the last step. And what I sent to you individually on an email was the three components that I thought would be important for us to know about and to review before this meeting. In any event, one of the forms, the master form, the one we need to use and we've changed, the 3-pager, has been given to you. There's only one modification to that. Originally, we had 21 days prior to arrival that the document had to get into the office so that it could be filed. I've had some conversations, I've looked at it, and I'm suggesting that we change that and bring it back to 10 days, which I think is a fair amount of time for the office to process this application. And I know Linda's taking notes, and I discussed it with her and Stella. They were at 14 days. I bumped them a few more days for the benefit of the tenant and the owner, but I think this is fair. Other than that, this is a form that you have seen, and it's identical to what we've discussed in the past. I will acknowledge that I have sent this out to the President's Council members, and I get their feedback. And the only feedback that I received against this was this statement, and it pertains to page 2, and you don't have to find it, I'll read it, because it says, member acknowledges, affirms, and guarantees that it shall be responsible for the actions of the tenant. And one of the subs came back and said, why should we be responsible? Because this application should bring the responsibility to the Master Association. And my response was, well, we're not in the financial business here. The club is processing it so that the member can rent their residence on a temporary basis. Certainly in any contract that has been established between the member and the tenant, that should be covered. It shouldn't be in our documents. It should be in their deal with the tenant. So that's the only objection that I've heard to this form. And if I don't have any questions, I'll go on to the next piece of paper. Good.
Are we going to do 10 days or 21 days?
Let's go 10 days. I think 21 days is, it's going to extend it out. Now, let me also say, we all know that we're here to help the owners. And if there's reasons why it needs to be shortened, again, less than 10 days, I'm certain that all the good work that our people do will try and help in any way possible. But we have to establish a standard, and that's 10 days.
Well, I can see a scenario where a tenant is in place and then for some reason has to cancel, and then they have to fill in somebody at the last minute. So we have to give the owners a little ability.
Yeah, absolutely, Tappy. Yeah, and I think it's, but it's fair. Let's come up with a number, and we'll work with people.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go to page 2. And my page 2, it starts with instructions. And Christine, I'll bring this up with you particularly because obviously this document, this page has to get on the website. And if you read even on the bottom, it says click here to access the transfer form. So what we're doing is we're moving the member or the tenant to the website where they can print out the transfer form and where they can print out this step-by-step process that's necessary to help them complete the form. We made a couple little changes. I drafted it. Jim has seen it. He's changed it. We're both in agreement that this is the way it should be done. And we think that this will help expedite the completion of the transfer form.
Okay, a couple little things. One, be sure to fix the misspelling in the title.
What does it say? Oh, instruction?
Completing.
Completing.
Oh, completing?
Yeah.
I don't have that form. I'm sorry. I'm looking at another copy, but I'll
just clean that
I'll go
up.
through a spell check. That's not a problem.
Yeah. Now on number 6, okay, the transfer form is then forwarded to the management company for the neighborhood association.
Right.
The neighborhood association itself can't, the president or the treasurer of the neighborhood association can't approve this.
Well, Tappy, that's why they're paying the management company. And if you go back into the history of the dealings of the management company and the boards, those sub-boards, they basically let the management company do this work. Now, in the case of Newell, there was actually a $100 charge that they would assess. And as I've said to the President's Council, if you want to go through that and you want to build up an expense, that's on you. You can do that. But for the master, every time an application came in. And what happened, just as an aside, there were subs that thought there was a background check that was being done by Newell. And I did research, and in fact, I have somewhere in my notes, I don't have it with me here, but Newell acknowledged that they do no background checks. The $100 was simply to do an application processing, to look at the document. So if the neighborhood association wants to continue that with Newell or with Resort, that's fine, that's their choice. We'll let them make that decision. They can always be stricter in their application or process than the master. They cannot be less than. We'll see what happens.
So who's gonna pay that? The owner gonna pay it? or-
Well,
and it gonna-
first of all, you're talking about the $100.
Yeah.
It would be the tenant. But second, it's not in our business. If they want to charge the $100, they can, but that's outside what our process has. It's not inclusive. We're not going to collect the money and forward it on. It will only be the sub-association saying we need $100 for processing.
I hear you. I can see this as being a stumbling block here.
Why?
That this is gonna throw us in, if Newell decides, I don't have time for this, and they don't get it done in a timely manner.
Well, then
This could be a
it's
problem.
Well, it could be, if it's a stumbling block, it's a stumbling block created by the sub-association.
Yeah,
They're paying Newell for the work. If Newell can't do their job, maybe they'll go to Resorts, or maybe vice versa, Resorts to Newell. But if the sub-association wants it to go to the management company, and that's their prerogative, then they have to make sure the management company does their job.
I'm just thinking that it would be streamlined, it'd be more streamlined to have the sub-association approve that.
So what does
take
the
it management.
management company actually do when you give them that application? I
Well,
don't believe they do anything.
That's right. You're absolutely right.
I mean, that's always been my issue. It's like, why are we putting this extra step in with the management company? Why don't we, as a board, as a sub-board, just manage it ourselves and oversee that? That would be the way I would make a suggestion to Fox Hollow to handle it, because going through Newell is another cumbersome step that we don't need to take, in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Well,
I agree. I think
don't
it's
disagree with
perfectly
you, but
within the
it's
ability
it's
of
not our
the
decision.
sub-association
It's
to
not our
to
decision,
approve
though.
this.
I'll say it again, it's not our decision.
No, I
The
understand, but I
sub-association-
think that should be, that information should be presented in that way to the different boards, so they understand that they have that option, that they do not have to go through their management company.
I
Christine,
agree
you're
with
absolutely,
Christine on this. I agree with Christine. First of all, for two reasons, it'll streamline it and it'll give the sub-association more information. They'll be the ones who are the gatekeepers on this, and they can just walk it over to the Fox Fire Administration. I think it streamlines it, and it's much more efficient, and it has a tighter view on what's going on in the association.
I don't disagree with either of you, okay? Just so you understand, I don't disagree. However, that is the way that they have operated to date. Now, do we have to get together with the President's Council? Yes, and I can send an email. However, they're not here. This is not the middle of the winter where we can get a meeting. The next meeting of the President's Council has to be held, and I believe it's on the Tuesday before the board meeting, which makes it about October 14th, and it's already on the agenda, and the President's Council is aware of this, okay, because we've talked about it. So I'll go into that meeting and I'll say, hey, do you really want to do this second step with your management company, which is going to slow down the process? And I'll talk to them about it, and perhaps we'll get to that point. But as we stand today, some of these sub-associations want the management company to see the documents. I'll give you one more bit of information to exactly agree with what you're saying. When we went to Resort and said to them, give us a list of the names of people that you know are renting in Foxmore. Don Strake and I worked on this. They came up with a very, very minuscule list of people that were renting there, which did not agree with our master records. So to your point, not only are we asking why it needs to go there, we're actually finding out that when it gets there, it's not an accurate report anyway. So why are we going through a double step? Absolutely correct.
See, it does not contradict what you say in order to have this 6A approved by the sub-association, and then it must be forwarded to the management company. But I think having the management company approve it is a stumbling block that's going to throw your timing off and doesn't give the sub-associations control.
I totally agree with your
All
statement.
right, but I'm saying it again. You're assuming that the board of that sub-association wants to get this document, and that the president of that association wants to see it. I can tell you that they'll say to me, that's why we're paying the management company to do this work. That's why they're there.
They're not paying it in Newell's case. We have to pay them again.
Paying, we're not paying anybody.
Newell says they're going to charge another $100 per application.
They're charging the sub-association because the
Right.
sub-association wants them, Newell, to receive an application, and the sub-association has agreed to pay the 100.
My
Right.
point is, you said that the sub-association said that's why we're paying the management company. In this Newell's
Right.
case, they're paying in addition.
Correct. That is correct. And we just even found out that Newell charges for emails they sent out on our behalf, which we were never aware of, or not, it is not part of our contract. So there's all these little fees that are being tacked on that we're finding out
True.
now.
That's true.
And this $100 is certainly another one, but
See, I agree. I mean, I would go back if I was on a board of a sub, I'd say, hey, I'm not paying you $100. That's why I'm paying you to do the work.
Why-
You're
why
making
not
extra
just-
money, and if you're not,
Why
but
not
that's
just
their
say-
issue. That's not our issue. That's my point.
can
Well,
I
it
ask
is
a
our-
question, Ray? Ray, I'd like to ask a question. You presented this at the President's Council. I'm not sure how many sub-associations were represented there. What was their reaction to the suggestion? I mean, are they on
Wait.
board with this? Are they going to all cooperate with this process and procedure? And what control do we have as a board and as Foxfire to see that it happens?
Christine, first of all, this was presented in an email to every member, every president of every association.
Okay,
Okay, everyone received an email. It was not any part of a meeting. Remember, we're in the middle of the summer. There's a large response for that group, came back and gave rave reviews to what we did.
okay.
And did not object, okay? Number two, the only objection I received was the one that I gave you earlier, which was regards to the financial responsibility. Okay? But remember, we're dealing in a time when I can't see these people face to face, and I fully plan in the next meeting that I've been able to arrange with this council to discuss it fully and make sure we get them on board to everything that's there.
Mhm.
Do I agree? And I'll say it again. If I was in one of those boards and a management company said to me, I'm charging you extra for this service, I'd say, hold it. That's why I'm paying you the fee. But that's a different issue. That's the way they run their business. I can certainly offer my opinion, and I agree with you.
Sorry, I have contractors here. My question is that certainly then the responsibility would fall to the board to develop their own internal process to how they deal with all of these rental applications. But I don't think that, I don't have that paperwork in front of me, unfortunately. And if there's verbiage in there that says that it must go to the management company, I think we need to amend that. If that's what it says, Tappy, I'm not sure.
Well,
You said
I'm
six.
asking about the stages in this process.
Right.
Like it to go to be approved by the sub-association, then the information forwarded for just for the files of the management company so that they have a record of who's there. But I think the first line of defense is the sub-association. They keep track, they approve, and they keep track of who's in their community.
And we can certainly work with the management company to alert them to who renters are, just so they have it for their files.
Absolutely.
But I don't think they should be involved in, I personally don't think they should be involved in any, if they're not going to do a credit check or a background check, I mean, what are we paying $100 for? That's silly.
Ray, if you
And
just say,
enforcement also,
Go ahead,
enforcement.
Bill.
I mean, if there's somebody in there that is not approved, who's going to be doing this? It'll be the sub-association, not the management
Right.
company.
if you just said that the form would be forwarded to the neighborhood association board. If they want to sign it, fine. If they want to send it to the management company to sign, fine.
Mhm.
But it goes to the board and they can decide how they want to handle it at that point.
Sure.
And then,
And I'm very comfortable with that. I'm very comfortable with that.
and then under part B.
Can I stop you, Bill, just for 1 second?
Pardon?
And I don't know this. Christine, you're on the board, you were on the board at Fox Hollow, so you would know. Do they have their own box and mailing address for each sub-association? 'Cause
Not
we have
that
to
I'm
send
aware
somewhere.
of. You mean an email?
No, you can't email this. You have to send a hard copy. Do they have a mailing address where this application would go?
To the management company?
No, to the sub-association. Fox Hollow.
Not that I'm aware of.
So then
But-
then where are they gonna send it?
Well, I can't imagine we're even using snail mail these days. So that's a different conversation. We
Yeah,
could
you
certainly,
scan these, you scan these and email them. Right?
I don't know. I think you may, these are signatures that are on here. That was this discussion we had of whether we could do it on a PDF file, and we could not do it, according to Kathy O'Brien, in a note she sent me yesterday, that we can't process this on a PDF because of the various signatures that are applied during the process.
Well, then it has to go to the president of the board of the neighborhood association.
right,
Responsible party.
right.
Okay. I mean, I'll change it. It don't matter to me. I mean, I'm just indicating, I asked where would it be sent to? Because there's no, we don't have phone. And we can put that in this form, no problem. So it would say the completed form is forward to the president of the neighborhood association for their processing and approval.
Right. And if they want to send it to the management company, fine. And then part B, directly to the Foxfire main office. If the neighborhood association prefers a direct submission.
They have to.
As I understood, the sequence was it goes to the neighborhood association, they sign off on it, and then it comes to Foxfire, to the
Yeah.
master association.
Sure, Bill, but you can't do that for single family homes because not every member of not every single family homeowners is part of that association.
Okay,
So you
Well, then-
have to have the stipulation in there. It can be sent in directly because there is no association involved with that homeowner.
fine, but then you should qualify it by saying for a single family homes, a direct submission.
Okay. I can
Yeah,
do that.
that's very unclear.
Which is what Bill just said or
6B
what
is
was in there.
unclear to me.
B is for single family homes, basically. There's no neighborhood association. So
Yeah, right.
when they have the form, they send it directly to the master association.
Well, that's not true. Suppose Village Ones decide they don't really care to see the application. It can go directly in. They can make that determination, but we don't have to do that. So
Well, I thought the whole point of this was so that the neighborhood associations would know what was going on,
Yeah,
you know, to
Whether they
submit
want to or not.
directly. You know,
I'll answer one of you at a time. It's kind of hard with everybody
Purpose of
talking, but not all of the sub-associations care. Let's put it that way. I mean, you got 17 associations. They're independents. I've talked about this. They each have their own theory. But I will put in here for the single family homes, it would be submitted directly. And I have Everett Olson has no problem with that, by the way.
Okay, so this is the other thing now I don't understand. If this is a process and procedure we're trying to establish as a standard, then every sub-association should be on board with it and not make their own set of rules and guidelines. Because what will happen is when, then Linda and Stella are the ones that are scrambling to make this happen if it's not standardized. Because if you've ever been there at the beginning or toward the end or beginning of the month when all of this happens, it's very confusing for them, and they do their best to mitigate that. I think we need to make sure we help them also, so that when it gets to them, it's a done process. It's not like they shouldn't have to say, well, this isn't done and this isn't done. So there needs to be a standard with every sub-association that they understand that if they want to control and know who is within their sub-association as renters, that, this needs to be followed, because that was the issue. Everybody had a different process. That's sort of the way I look at it. Why can't we standardize it and have a process? And it can't be helter-skelter.
Christine, we've done this for a few months. I will tell you that I spoke to all of the sub-association presidents, and the large majority said, we want to see the application of what is happening. We want to see it before it goes to the master. Okay? So that's a standard. That's what they wanted, and that's exactly what's in here. And then we got into the issue between Newell and Resorts. And Newell is the one that wants to see the application. Resorts is a little bit more laissez-faire, let's just say. Okay? So we've now said that the president of the sub will receive the application. That's what we decided on A. That's fine. So that's a standard. On B, we said, and because we have the problem with the single-family home, some of those homes, because they're not all in the association, we've said that any single-family home will send it directly to the main office. There's your standard, and we've covered both ends of the spectrum.
And if the neighborhood association wants to send it to the management company, fine. If they
Yeah.
don't, fine. But they
Right.
have no
That's fine.
interest
No,
in
Bill,
that.
and I agree.
Right.
And there's a step in this, right, Bill, and there's another step in this, which is the important part, which is the communication between the president and their sub, 30, 60, 120 units, whatever it might be. They should send out an email. We'll coordinate that so that they'll be sending it out to each one of their members to say a new process is coming in for tenants. It's going to be on the website, and here's a blurb of what you should expect. If you have any questions, contact us because we're going to work with you because you're part of our association. In
But we
addition-
don't give sub-associations the ability to opt out of this process because they don't
I
feel
didn't-
like it.
I didn't say that. I never said
You
that.
said some sub-associations don't want to do this.
I
And
didn't
that
say
was why you were
I never-
vague in 6B.
No. I never said they don't want to opt out of the process, Tappy. What I said was that some of them wanted to see the application and others did not. But they all want this process, this new application and new ways being handled. They want that. That's what I said.
They want to see the application, they want to approve the application.
They've always approved the application. Right? They've always, well, that's not true because single family homes doesn't apply. But now we're getting them to sign off on the application. Absolutely. And they know this and they've agreed to this. They've all gotten my emails, numerous emails about this. They've been totally involved in the process.
No, then I misunderstood what you said about 6B.
Okay. But no, 6B is only the single family homes.
Actually, it
it's still-
says direct, if the neighborhood association prefers direct submission.
That's right.
Ray has
Says-
agreed to add.
I've changed it.
Homes to that.
Yeah,
Okay, we changed it because that's where it comes in. No, it's there. The process is available. But again, there's going to have to be another email sent in addition to this, and it has to come from the master because we can't rely upon the sub-association to say there's a new transfer process. So at some point in the next month or so, somebody, Donald, Bill, the board, whatever, has to say, hey, we got a new process. And by the way, your cost is $400 and $200, and this is what you have to pay and all that good stuff, because they don't know that right now. So we have to announce it to our members anyway, right?
all right, so let me make sure this is clear. The tenant fills out the application. The application now goes to the sub-association, if there is a sub-association. They approve it however they want to, whether it's through their management company or through themselves. Then it is forwarded to the master association. The management association or sub-association step is skipped in the case of single-family homes.
For the most part, you've got a couple steps because the signature also has to be applied by the tenant, which is part of it. They also have to decide whether they're full rights, social rights, that type of stuff. The
Yeah.
real estate company, if they're involved, they have to complete it because we want to make sure they're on the line, that they know they're following our rules and they're not bringing someone in and certainly not getting involved in less than 30 days, which is what this is really starts. It's all about. And then that application does go to the main office, and that's within 10 days, and then we process. Correct.
Okay, just so we're clear on that.
But with filling out the application, the owner has to sign off before it goes, the owner has to sign off before it goes to their association or their
Right.
management company.
Right. Member.
Because
Correct.
without the owner's signature, the whole thing's null and void.
Correct. Yeah, member tenants fill it out, check off what the rights are, goes on. goes to the sub, and the sub processes, whether they give it to Newell or Resorts, that's their prerogative. But as
Or
long as
do it
they're,
themselves, or do it themselves.
well, that's what I was about to say. Or whether they just sign it off and give it to neither and pass it on to the master, then it's done. We have all the signatures, and a realtor, if they're involved, they're signing it because they're involved in this anyway. And then we go through and we start issuing transponders and temporary numbers.
Okay,
Okay, are we all in agreement at this point?
I
Yes,
think we are, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna bring up two other things to you. One, the third page that you received is not gonna be given, it doesn't go out. It's just for our internal purposes, because there were questions raised of what do we do with visitors that are not tenants, not monetarily in. And those three summaries you will see, I did it on the 12th, I guess. Jim and I went through it. There was a couple minor changes. And Jim and I talked about it. He gave me the suggestion and I agreed that when we talk about the third paragraph, which is a visitor who is in residence of a member's unit, how does it apply? And we came up with a very simple solution. We said, we're not going to address it right now because we're going to see how it proceeds. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the tenant process. But we now know what a green card means and how it's identified. We now know what a non-relative guest, non-relative being, not a green card guest, and how they're handled. And basically they move about Foxfire with a member. The question always became, what happens if someone goes into my house and stays there for 2 weeks or a week or whatever, and I'm not there, how does it apply? And that's what the last paragraph describes. It's exactly what happens. And it refers back to what the documents say. And simply it says that the person is in the unit residing there, but they do not have the rights to any amenities. That's what our documents say. So the answer is they're there. And if we find out that that's becoming an issue or an abuse or something to be concerned about, it can be addressed down the road. Jim, am I clear on those statements?
Yes, you are.
Thank you, sir. I get to talk to you instead of email numerously about these things. So as everybody's comfortable with that, I just wanted to make sure you had it. Okay.
Speaking of the sub-associations, are gonna have their own, with regard to non-renters, the sub-associations have their own restrictions with regard to.
Sure. Right.
Right.
Even up to how many times you can rent and all that stuff. You're right. No, you're right.
I just want to make sure that that was clear.
No. We're the standard, and they can restrict that standard further on their decision, but they can't lessen the standard that we create. Right. Agreed. Okay.
With the changes to part 6 of the second document, is there a motion to approve this transfer process?
Honest to goodness, I would really like to see this printed out again before I approve it.
You don't trust me?
I'm not 100% sure that, are we talking about the transfer form at this point or the instructions?
Both, both, yeah, but the instructions, I mean, the bone of contention seemed to be part 6.
Yeah,
And my understanding of the resolution was that 6A says it goes to the neighborhood association board. And what they do with it is up to them. And then after they sign off on it, or their management company signs off on it as they determine, then it goes to the master association board. And 6B, if it's a single family home, it goes directly to the master association. So we just
that's my
qualify.
understanding too. Yeah,
Pardon?
that's my understanding too. I just hope it's everybody's understanding and that's what we
Ray,
end up with.
is that how you understood it?
Absolutely. It's just that I'm on vacation. I was trying to enjoy my life, but that's okay.
Okay, with that clarification,
I'll
is
do
there a
it.
motion to accept this alteration of the transfer process and get it out?
Yes, motion to approve with the amendments.
There second?
Second.
And is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? All right, listen, great. Thank you so much. I know you put a lot of work into
Okay,
this.
Jim, Phil,
and,
let me-
You herded cats very effectively.
No, they're good people. Hey, just so I can say, Jim, if you don't mind, I'm going to send it to you. Because Jim is my voice of reason. So I'll send it to you, Jim. You tell me it looks right, and then we'll send it out to the board just so they can see what, that, you know, I'll make the
You
changes.
just have the
Fine.
reminder. Yes, send it out to the
Yeah,
board, and
okay.
then Donald and I
Okay.
will work on a communication to the members incorporating this. Okay?
That sounds good.
I will
That
do
sounds
one more
good.
thing if you don't mind, and I will also communicate it to Kathy O'Brien because this needs to get on the website. And let me just point one other thing out to everyone. This doesn't matter about what we just discussed. But because we don't have a Foxfire directory, these privileges, how the tenant operates, how the member operates, is available to Foxfire, but only if you have the 2020 directory. I do not think at this point, maybe I'm wrong, I do not think at this point it is on our website. I think we ought to
Okay,
consider.
all we need, Ray, all we need is whatever you want to go on the website and we'll get it on there. Whatever that is, whatever you want on there, if you put it in a format, we'll get it up on the website so it's available there. It's one of our steps that we're trying to accomplish.
Right.
Again, it is, we have a very small communication committee. They are working on many different objectives. They're not full-time employees. So, but if you get it to us, you get us that information, we'll put it up on the website.
Christine,
Whatever you think wants to be up there.
Christine, I would suggest this way. We should go to the page of the directory. It's either page 13 or 16. I can't get it because it's in another part of this bungalow. But why don't we just copy that directly as it reads? That's what we want. Kathy, you got it? I think it's 16 or 13. Barb, you got it? Barbara's I think it's 13 or 16. Just give it to me. I'll find it. That's what I think you have to copy because that's what it all refers back to. Without a directory, we've lost this.
Yeah,
But the website's going to be the directory. So,
yeah, 13.
13. Page 13 is what you need.
and that's accurate as of today. It's not old.
No,
I don't
this
know
is,
that.
I've got 2019.
It starts in the middle of page 13, delegation of club privileges, and then it goes into member cards. That it's like 2/3 of the page. That's what I'm referring to.
Okay,
That's
Donald, if you would just read through that and let me know if you would suggest any changes to that. Because it is 2 years old, it could be relevant. I would say give it a quick perusal, read through it, and just give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if that's the way you want it to appear on the website.
I sure will.
Okay, you might want to also look from page 10 onward, which starts house rules. So it's really like 3 pages, but whatever you guys, that's your decision. But I'm just saying, there's no other document that I can refer to other than the directory. Okay.
So
Well, our committee will work with the staff and Donald and try to get that up there as soon as possible. So that could be referenced as a go-to point for information that everyone needs to have regarding the role responsibilities of tenants, members, whatever. We're trying to get it all done. It's not easy, trust me.
So just one just comment about the directory. So one of the things is that with the directory, there's been a lot of discussion. One of the things that we are going to do for sure is, we're updating the rosters. We've had obviously a large number of changes with ownership, but we are going to have some form of for members who want a hard copy of the addresses and phone numbers and email addresses, we're going to be able to just print that right in the office by request. But all the information in the directory is somewhere on the website. But we will make sure all those components, as Mrs. Krennic said, are on there. So, and then of course available to print by request.
And I just want to make a comment regarding the member roster. As guests, I mean, as renters come on, you know, the office updates that information. So a guest that's here for a month or 3 months, their information exists online under the member roster. That would never happen with a directory. So that's why we need to change our thinking about how we think about, you know, the website. We're trying to work toward making it, you know, our go-to site for all information. Are we there yet? No, I'm be honest with you, we're not there yet. But that is our goal, that is our objective. We're working diligently toward it. If there's any members out there that like to volunteer to be on the communication committee, we'd look to have more members to work on some of these things. But that's the direction this is going because of the cost of the directory, and it becomes obsolete the day you print it. And I think it's more relevant to have all the information that's in the directory in terms of like this issue here and other things that are on the directory on the website, so people can access it ASAP when they want it, not say, where's my book? Where's my directory? What's the information? So that is our goal and objective. The communication committee is working diligently. Donald's a great supporter for us. So that's where we're going with it.
Okay. Done. Let's go on to the reports of standing committees. I'll start with the Medical Advisory Committee, which, as you know, a few weeks ago recommended that we reinstitute the use of masks in the clubhouse because of the Delta variant. So that's where we are at the moment. Few members have raised the issue of mandatory vaccinations of employees, and it's something that the Medical Advisory Committee will meet and discuss. But that's a controversial issue, as you know, and so we'll be considering that. Under the Construction Committee, Donald and myself and Barry Murphy and Tom McIntyre have been meeting regularly with Davidson, with MHK, with Edward Don, who is doing the design of the kitchen and the bar equipment, and Jeff Curl, who's the landscape architect, to sort of coordinate all of their efforts. And we have authorized MHK to proceed with construction drawings as a prelude to putting the project out for bid. I can't say enough about Tom McIntyre. Tom McIntosh. I do that. I must have known a McIntyre. Tom McIntosh, who has brought a level of scrutiny to this project, which is really remarkable, and down to where floor drains should be placed, and you name it. And I can't tell you how much money he has probably saved by what he has done in terms of looking at drainage patterns and all sorts of things. So we are making good progress. As Donald said, the site development plan has been approved. The Southwater Florida Management has signed off. We are sort of clear to go at this point. Are there any questions for me about the construction project process? There's a lot of decisions to be made, and I think the group of people we have are well positioned and experienced, so that I think the decisions so far have been right on the mark. If there are any major deviations of the plan or the costs, the board will be the first to be informed, but so far nothing of that nature has occurred. Okay, well, we'll move on to Strategic Planning Committee.
Yes, strategic planning met on the 13th of August, and we have a 10-year rolling plan, which I will forward to all of the board members. At the top of the list going on from now and for the next few years was the ongoing rebranding efforts. And that's an effort to get consistency with all of our signage and colors and logos throughout the community so that we have one consistent vision of what's going on. We have the master plan components, and then there are a number of other things going down the line up until the next 10 years. But those are the big ones, I believe. Yes, yeah, that's it.
Green Committee,
I think Donald covered Green Committee with
okay.
his report.
Finance,
Our next meeting will take place in September for both the Finance Committee and the House Social Committee. One of the key focuses for that I've already asked Lynn Anderson and Helen Westling to join me on is to buy Victoria lunch in October. We want to make certain that the four of us are getting together to lay some plans on our steps for phase 2 of our loan from Iberia. And then the four of us will probably have a preliminary meeting with Anita in November because we want to plan ahead on that and make certain that we get a favorable rate. So that's just thinking ahead a little bit on the finance side. In the House Social Committee, Jim Detman, who's done a magnificent job as chair of that particular committee, he's going to be using a theme of pack the house, and initially developed this thought process in anticipation of enthusiasm for members who come back in the fall who really want to get together and rally together. That being said, the House Committee will be listening to the Medical Advisory Committee in a significant way. We can't say with 100% certainty that we are going to be able to pack the house. We're going to have to figure out whether we're going to have some of these events, and we'll all have our antenna up and learning that. And that actually applies to the Finance Committee as well, because we budgeted, built a budget that assumed we were going to have all types of social occasions, that we would have welcome back parties, we would have Christmas parties. We know that we're going to have to take that step at a time as we enter into October.
thank you. Insurance Committee,
The insurance committee is really nothing going on at this particular point in time. We do have a healthcare insurance that will have to be developed.
That one is in line.
That's in line.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that one's in,
Okay.
yeah.
So we're in good shape.
okay. ARC,
The ARC hasn't really met since spring. However, one of our long thorns, the thorn in our side for the longest time is now being resolved, I'm happy to report, and that is the roof on Fox Haven 1, which many of you could identify from space because there's a big blue tarp on it, or there was a big blue tarp. And we started gently putting some pressure on Fox Haven 1, and I'm happy to report that I've been told they settled with their insurance company. And I can tell you that there are cranes and building materials outside of the building right now, lifting things up to the roof, and they're going to redo the roof. And so the blue tarp, we hope, is nothing but a distant memory. The ARC, I'm meeting with Mike Gavigan later this week, later this coming week, I should say. We have a number of issues about patios. There's a moratorium on new patios right now until we develop some standards. And one of the things we were able to locate was a good plat map of Foxfire. So now we're able to a little more precisely tell people where those patios can go and can't go to avoid getting onto common property. And I'm anticipating that in the next few months, we will have some significant development in the standards for patios, such that we can get them approved, maybe by one of our fall board meetings. Anyway, we're working on that. So those are the two projects the ARC is working on. There's nothing to report on the legacy fund. We haven't had a meeting since the ill-fated meeting with the Memorial Committee. And there's nothing to report on the Rules Committee. We have thankfully no things to investigate. So
Two quick questions on the ARC, please, Jim. Fox Haven one, are they getting a new roof or are they getting it repaired?
well, I don't, how do you define a new roof by getting the rafters taken out? And it appears to me that they're just that the roof structure itself is there. They're just re-shingling it.
Okay.
That's correct. That is correct, yes.
It doesn't look
All right.
like they've done any significant repair to the roof deck itself, but it's new, what we used to call tar paper and shingles. That's what it
Oh,
looks
that's
like.
pretty significant. And as far as the patios go, you're saying standards. I think one of the issues that people are commenting on is the amount of external decoration there. Is there some discussion about how many tchotchkes you can have out there? How many garden gnomes?
That's an issue. I can't say we've discussed it yet. It's more about size, placement, lighting, and landscaping. But I'm sure at some point the garden gnome issue or statuary will come up. I know it's been an issue in previous ARC. ARC has addressed the issue of statuary in previous correspondence with owners. I'm not necessarily privy to that, but no, we haven't specifically started to talk about that issue.
Well, I think under the Master Association, we have some standards in terms of how much yard decoration you can do, and maybe you can just apply that. I don't know.
Yeah, we have pretty broad standards on what we can do in terms of exterior appearance of any buildings, and we'll be looking at that. I know it's raised its head and it's been resolved quietly in the past, but it's going to be an ongoing issue, I'm sure, that we'll need to talk about, but we haven't yet.
Okay, thank you. Golf committee,
Golf committee hasn't met formally since probably May, but there's been some communication. I thought I'd just bring a couple up. One, you saw an email about the Classics division for the men, and I talked to Bob Peter about it and Don Noss. But anyway, it was pretty well received, and I think it may increase the men's league to up to as much as 50 people, because there were a lot of men golfers interested, obviously, in the concept of playing from the two tees with a group of people, and then combining with the overall men's league. Chelsea is another discussion that's been ongoing during this slow period, looking at how electronics can be used. I haven't seen any final word on that, but I'd let you know that it's being discussed. I also know Margie Murphy was meeting with Stephen about some things with dress code, just discussion. So we've got some things in the works. And the other thing I just want to bring up as a thought, and I came up with it when Lynn Anderson and I were talking yesterday, because if you look at the budget report, you'll notice that everybody worries about tee times and loss of tee times during the prime season. It's interesting that green cards represent about 1/3 of the additional tee times, let's call them that, and 2/3 go to the tenants. That's not good, that's not bad, that's not a criticism, but it's important that we know that when we talk about loss of tee times or inability to play during the prime season, that's not just tenants, that's also green cards. And it's just a acknowledgement that should be there. So we're gonna do a little analysis on that and see if there's ways of increasing available tee times. Couple thoughts.
My recollection was that tenants were about 11%. Is that still the case?
I think, Tappy, if I remember right, it was this past year, it was closer to 14%, but you might be right. But I don't.
That may be a couple of years ago.
Yeah, but it was been as high, Donald, I think it's been as high as 20% at times over the previous years, hasn't it?
Years ago, yes, years ago.
Yeah, so it's dropped. Anyway, the point is that there's discussions going on, and that's really what we want to hear. So let me go on to the President's Council. I told the meeting is October 12th, the next meeting. They've all been advised to make aware of its existence. And the important thing is a couple of things that the President's Council can do for each other, and it's growing. And that has to do with the work that Fox Hollow has to go through because of the erosion of the concrete in certain areas. And Dave Berger's going to lead that discussion. And then we'll talk about in depth about the tenant transfer policy, so we get face-to-face discussions, which usually bring out more thoughts. But overall, the council is, and what I'm saying, and this is the good part, is that they're communicating amongst themselves for the common goal, for example, the erosion. So they've already made plans of figuring out ways to bring in inspectors to do multiple sections of Foxfire at one cost and saving money. So we see some success. That's it.
Thank you, Ray. Safety, tennis, any reports?
Nothing for tennis from me.
I think Audubon and Memorial, is that Mark?
Yeah. So just, and he's off the call, just a couple of things. So first and foremost, every year, the Memorial Committee does make a contribution to help preserve the Cuban laurel tree. And that is generally $500 to $750. So just want to make sure, as part of our process, that the board is aware of that and approves that expense once again, that will ultimately be released by the Memorial Committee. The second thing is that one of the discussions that we've had at the Memorial Committee is, once all the golf course work is complete and the driving range is up and running, is to replace all the faded bricks that are around the clock. We'll get the clock repainted and cleaned up, and then replace all the faded bricks. And the Memorial Committee agreed that that would be an excellent use of some of their funds, would be to replace those bricks. And so I just wanted to make sure everyone is aware of that, and that we will be coming back with a formal proposal to do so once we're ready.
If we do that, will we seal them as he recommended? So
Yeah,
preserved for the future.
absolutely. And that area, one of the things too is that because that is hit with reclaimed water, I don't know how effective a sealer would be out there, but it's certainly something that we'd want to do, for sure.
Bill, if I can say something, it's Memorial Fund, and Donald and I have talked about it. Roger, I've mentioned it to you because I look out and I know we have a decent amount of money in that Memorial Fund that will be spent wisely. I guess about $60,000. And it just was my observation that one of the in the charter of the Memorial Fund, it talks about how the money can be spent, and they do talk heavily about plantings and trees, and that's one of the key components. So I bring this suggestion up for thought to the board. We do have areas in our golf course that will not be part of golf play. And I'll use one example, the tee box on 9 Silver, there's a fountain there and some trees. And I brought up the thought that wouldn't it be a good idea to take that area and enhance it with large groups of flowers and trees and plants, because it's a focal point of our golf course. It sits between two nines that pass by. And it would be an excellent way of frankly, memorializing our previous members and saying, we've got a big memorial garden here. And boy, we're 500 yards away and we can see these flowers and these trees and these colors. Now, Donald, from our conversation, and you're right, it's not something that can be done perhaps today because we need irrigation that matches up to that. But it's certainly something that can be planned for. So my suggestion is, and by the way, I've also talked to the landscape committee because playing golf with Holly Conacher one day, we were talking about it. It seems to me that if an effort, perhaps that's not the right word, but a thought process of getting together to dedicate Memorial Fund monies to the improvements of Foxfire in golf course areas that are not playable areas, but rather scenic areas, would benefit the community, would be an excellent way of remembering our former members. And it would be also a way of planning for the future where additional smaller donations could be used to either work on those areas or expand it to other areas. I just gave you one example. There's about 5 different areas on the course where this may apply. I just thought I'd bring it up to the board for your thoughts.
Thank you.
And based on the conversation that Mr. Gary and I had some time ago, I did share that with Len McClay, and the Memorial Committee certainly wants to get behind that beautification in those areas once we have the irrigation and can do that type of planting. So they're certainly on board with that.
So Donald, does it sound practical to go to the Landscape Committee and say, come up with ideas?
Yes, and I believe, I think that Mr. McClay has already reached out to Mrs. Kramer. I believe he has.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, well, thank you, Ray. Let's see, statutory rules. Communications Committee.
So the Communications Committee met a few weeks ago on an informal basis because we had not met for a couple of months over the summer. The Master Golf and Amenities Progress Chart photos and videos are, that content is being collected weekly by Jeremy, being formatted by Kathy O'Connor and placed on the website as quickly as possible. There's a little bit of a problem sometimes with uploading these large files, so that's been difficult. As Donald mentioned, Zach has uploaded some new videos, new content. I believe the new progress chart is up to this morning. So for members to view. My husband looks at it all the time and says, where's the new photos? And I'm like, oh my goodness, Bob, you know, find something else to do besides look at the website. But I'm glad that he's going there, and it seems like other members are going there. I want to talk about the website mobile app for foxfirecc.com. A couple of months ago, the board approved a budget of $1,500 for website custom development for 10 hours and an audit for $750. The goal is to have a remote audit conducted in October with CSG, recommendations reviewed second week in October, when key members of the Communication Committee are able to meet together at Foxfire and study the suggestions. And they do need to be together presently to do that. It's a better way to do it, a process. An example of a rather important issue to resolve is the roster content information. Telephone numbers have been given a text to identify household individuals who own that number, but that inhibits the ability for us to do the click on this and call that number. So that is being cleaned up slowly internally by the staff. To have that cleaned up also will be very useful for the mobile app version. The mobile application itself, CSG has and I'm going to read through this because it's more technical than I understand, but CSG has a thin client specific for smartphones. Although foxfirecc.com website is device flexible, you can bring up obviously the website on your mobile devices. A true mobile thin client for phones would be a nicer user experience. The Communication Committee requests for the website audit and subsequent revision of the website before rolling the website into a mobile application. There's a lot of, the mobile application we've looked at it, it needs a lot of cleaning up and a lot of work to be done on it. We don't want it to go live until it's working properly. So we're going to delay that a little bit. The other thing that Communication Committee has been working on are the training modules that were created by Pat Witt. She's done a great job of putting this together. She has 9 mobile applications now, which we're going to roll out to the members. One is change the password, find my password, how do I edit my profile, how do I use Envira, how do I use Gin on the computer, how to make a recurring request tea time, how to make a tea time, how to register for club events, and how to set up buddies and groups in the calendar. We'll work with our members remotely, most likely, given the the conditions now with the virus and the Delta variant. I'm not sure, we'll have to rely on the medical advisory board for some of these things, but we're thinking that this will just be done virtually. And then just want to remind people that there was an approved budget for $3,200 for 100 stainless steel Foxfire water containers, which we're going to use for a new member program called Foxfire Community Orientation or Fun. And also there was an approved budget of $5,200 for a new member reception sometime in the fall, because we have an influx of so many new members. So those are some of the initiatives that the Communication Committee is working on. As we referenced today, we do need to get, and Ray's right, we need a reference point on the website for some of the information that exists in the directory, and we will get on that as soon as we can. So that's what the Communication Committee is working on. Foxtail's editorial board will be meeting again shortly. We had a month hiatus because it was a 2-month Foxtail article. And the Health and Wellness Committee is an amazing committee. I mean, we had a planning workshop. Everyone set goals for themselves in terms of what they wanted to accomplish in this coming year. They're very community oriented. And I'll just read their vision and mission statement, because I think it's important for members to understand where they're coming from. So their vision is Foxfire is a positive, supportive community that promotes health and wellness, belonging, harmony, and caring. And then their mission is to promote the awareness of physical and mental health through preventive educational workshops and sponsored activities that contribute to healthier and happier lifestyles and builds vitality within the Foxfire community. They've increased, they're looking at 27 workshops during season, 14 weekly activities, 3 support initiatives, walking Moais. The October Health and Wellness Fair has hit an obstacle because of, again, the virus and the Delta variant. Most vendors have pulled out of the event that was scheduled for October. However, Walgreens seems that they will agree to do the flu shots and other shots that they have in the past. And again, we'd like approval from the medical advisory board that this can happen as we get closer to it. I think that would be a real value added for members, even though the whole health and wellness fair may not come off. And so I just wanted to make everyone aware of that. You know, it would be a real convenience for members to be able to get their flu shots and any other shots they wanted to get that will be offered. So that is on the agenda for October. The Health and Wellness Committee is working with Galena to use the dining room for that. But again, that's sort of a work in progress. And you'll be hearing more from Health and Wellness as time goes on. Again, they're very community centered and focused on everyone's well-being within the community.
Okay, thank you. We have correspondence in the book from the shelter, an organization to which we contributed $1,500, thanking us for that. Are there any members who wish to exercise the right to speak at this point?
Barry Murphy has asked to speak, and I've just allowed him to speak. Barry, if you want to unmute yourself, you can speak now. Lower left-hand corner, the mic, Barry.
It depends. It might be upper right-hand corner on an iPad. It's upper
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Barry, one more chance here to unmute if you want to speak. You have to unmute yourself.
Just touch your screen somewhere. And
Yeah.
maybe the microphone icon will pop up. It's the microphone icon if you can find it.
Right. While we're waiting for Barry, I just want to, Ally McGallaghy was on earlier and she just made a comment. With all the renovations to the driving range, will the height of the side nets be increased?
The plan is to increase the height of on the sign that absolutely on 9 Red. So whether or not the poles are moved or not moved, the plan is to raise the height for sure.
Okay,
And actually, the way that the range is designed now with the way the target greens are, it's designed so the way it orientates is going to be much better for practice.
mhm,
And gets people away from hitting towards 9 Red.
perfect.
Barry, you want to text me your question
I'd say you could text me as well.
or
Yeah.
text Donald? question?
Yeah,
Donald, did you have-
otherwise, there's no one else that has indicated a desire to ask a question or speak.
I've got one more thing that I missed when I was going through the controller's report, and that is that since Victoria's come on, we've looking at all the ways that we operate and which things have to be performed when and by whom. And one of the things that Victoria has recommended is that we do get laptops for both Layla and Halsey, because with regard to the COVID situation, the fact that if their jobs are jobs that they have to be able to log into from home,
Critical.
it's critical that they're able to do that. So I totally agree and completely support the purchase of 2 additional laptops. The cost will be approximately $4,000 as we speak. As we've discussed, we're in an outstanding financial position, and it would be appropriate, I believe, this year to go ahead and do that during this fiscal year and get that behind us and have us prepared for, what's ahead of us.
Okay. Is
So
there a-
these are laptops that they would take home with them, and they probably wouldn't use them often, or would they use them on a daily basis in the office and then take it home to work remotely? What's the plan for that?
The plan would be for them only to take them home when they are planning to work remotely. These
Okay,
laptops will have a remote access. And we'll also, we have a capability for employees, for administrative employees to punch in on the online. So that's how we will track their time. And I also need to speak with our IT consultant, how we can analyze their work remotely from the organizational standpoint, because they're hourly employees.
so for the most part, these laptops wouldn't be used at
Correct.
all.
Yes,
Yeah.
the goal is for them not to use it for personal use, of course, and to only take them home when there is a plan to work remotely.
Well, and a perfect example was last week. I had to stay home for 3 days because I was a close contact. So for me, I can log in and do everything. I can do everything I have to do from my iPad, but I'm a salaried employee. There's a conflict when it's hourly employee. So we want to make sure, especially with the type of work that they do, it's critical that if they're working from home, they have the access to the files that they have to get to keep
Correct.
everything on track.
I see. Okay.
Is there a
Yeah,
motion to?
In
go
this
ahead,
day and
Christine.
age, though, working remotely is becoming more of a norm. And I applaud the efforts in this regard. I think we need to enable our employees to work as efficiently as they can with the technology that we have available to them. And I think this is a good step forward.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to purchase 2 laptop computers for this purpose?
Yes,
I
I
make a
move that we-
motion, I so move to purchase 2 laptop computers for
Is
the.
there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion, questions? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Okay. Are there any members who wish to speak? I guess Barry has.
Yeah,
Okay,
oh, here he
Barry.
is, here he is, here he is. Okay.
okay,
Yeah,
Barry,
my
you're on
my
the air.
iPhone was early, but the iPad seems to be working.
Okay, perfect.
Donald, when we were talking about the bocce and the tennis, does US Tennis change their procedure where they're gonna, instead of do the bocce courts first, that I understand they're doing the tennis courts first and working toward toward the golf course as opposed to away from the golf course?
Yeah, when I spoke to them the other day, I just, because I wanted them to give us an update of exactly what the next steps would be. That's their project manager for me said that what they want to do is go ahead and get the curbing, obviously the lighting, the curbing and the fencing in for the tennis courts first. But that was what he had said to me the other day.
Now, that is a change from original.
Yes, because originally, all along, we planned on them working from the golf course backwards. So,
Correct.
Yep. It doesn't
Okay.
change the time, it won't change the time frame as far as, how quickly they do it, but ultimately, they're just reversing their operation. And my thought is that more than likely, it's because of the jobs that they have going. They probably, I know they have jobs on the East Coast as well, so it might be that the fact that they want they have their tennis crew here, and they may do it, that might be what's directing that for them.
Okay, obviously not a problem. It was just a change. That I was not aware of. Okay.
Yeah, no, I literally talked to Fermin the other day just because I wanted to talk to them about their permitting and what they had to do to make sure that everything that we're doing is in conjunction with what they need, and if they needed anything from us. And when he actually mentioned that to me, I said that's why I want to bring it up to date today, that this is their current plan. And as you know, these things change frequently,
Right.
but the original plan was bocce first, but they're doing tennis first.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, any other members wish to speak?
There is no one else with a raised hand, Dr. Cornetto.
Okay, our next meeting is September 17th. And unless there's objection, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Done. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.